Jose Araujo. I am the President of the Board of Elections for the calendar year 2014 and the Democratic Commissioner from the County of Queens. These are the hearings on challenges to designated petitions for state and local offices, as well as party positions to be contested in the September 9, 2014 primary election. This year we have a number of challenges, and we ask for cooperation and understanding of all present. This will enable us to move matters along in an orderly fashion. I now would ask that each commissioner and staff member present identify him or herself for the record. Starting with my left.
Good afternoon, Michael Rendino, D. Bronx County Commissioner.
Simon Schmoon, Kings Republican.
Frederick Humane, Manhattan Republican. Michael Michelle, Queens Republican.
Julie Day, Brooklyn Democrat. Welcome, everyone.
Marie Costello, Richmond Democrat.
Senior staff.
Matt Graves, candidate record unit.
Tom Sack, candidate.
Raphael Sino, Deputy General Counsel.
Steve Richmond, General Counsel.
Steve Nature, Counsel. Kenneth Moulton, Counsel.
Valerie Baxter,
I want to remind all persons appearing before the commissioners at this hearing must fill out the notice of appearance form, which is available at the front counter. Each person must present the completed form for each specification or matter to our staff as they come up to the podium to speak. I want to remind all commissioners, board staff, attorneys, and members of the public that only one person should speak at any time so that the audio system can accurately record the proceedings. Also, please speak directly to the microphone, into the microphone, so that all present can hear the proceeding. I would ask that all present place their cell phones on vibrate or silent ring or turn them off during the course of these proceedings. I want to also advise all present that this board is required by law to report how each commissioner votes on each matter. In the event that we are not unanimous in our vote on a given matter, I will ask that our council conduct a roll call of the commissioners for the record. I now call upon Steve Richmond, General Counsel for the board, to call the calendar for this hearing.
Thank you, Mr. President. Commissioners, in accordance with our procedure, we'll begin with the prima facie issues. You have within your brown folder the legal prima facie calendar. I would ask anyone, when we call your name, if you hear your name called related to your office and you want to appear, please line up here at the podium behind the candidates for the prima facie issues. The first prima facie issue, Commissioners, is Democratic Party, the petitions of Demetrius S. Lawrence for candidate for the New York State Senate, 20th Senate District. The candidate failed to file a cover sheet, as we discussed yesterday, under the Armwood decision. The second department has ruled that is a fatal, uncurable defect.
Mr. Richmond, is the petition volume more than 10 pages?
Commissioners, if you look there, you have 4 volumes.
And that meets the requirements for a cover sheet, is that correct?
Yes, Commissioner.
Is anyone appearing on this matter?
Well, I ask them to stand up. The second one is Paige Bellenbaum, State Committee Female. 3 volumes were filed for the 52nd Assembly District Democratic Party. Again, the candidate failed to file a cover sheet.
Again, the requirement was necessary?
Commissioner, consists of 3 volumes, and therefore absolutely mandates a cover sheet. Democratic Party County Committee, 50th AD, 4th Election District, Beyond Stephen, the petition omits a zip code. And County Committee, 50th AD, 4th ED, Democratic Party, Emily Singleton, petition omits zip code. Commissioners, the next page, there should be only one item there, the County Committee in undesignated district. The petition does not specify the district that the candidate is seeking to be designated in. Similarly, for the Conservative Party, Joseph M. Donato, and petition does not specify the district that the candidate is seeking to be designated in. And then on petitions KG 1401063, the petition itself doesn't identify the name of the candidate, the district, or the petition. It was just the signature. As well as for then the last one, the Working Families Party, Manny Cavaco, the 26th State Senate District, petition omits the zip code. Are there any appearances on the prima facie legal issues? Please step up. You're appearing for the candidate over here.
Yeah, oh, sorry.
And your notice of appearance, please.
I have my notice appearance here. My name is Robert Carroll from Wolfson and Carroll, I'm here for Bijan Stephen and Emily Singleton in the 50th Assembly District's 4th ED. I need to just fill it out, I'm sorry. Our position is that the address is clear and it identifies both Ms. Singleton and Mr. Stephen without the zip code, and thus because it does not, the identification is clear and it would not be fraudulent, that Mr. Stephen and Ms. Singleton should be able to appear as county committee candidates in the 4th ED and the 50th Assembly District.
Mr. Richmond, do you have a response?
Yes, Commissioners. The statute requires that the petition set forth the complete residence address and the complete mailing address if it is different for the candidate. In order to have delivery of mail, as we've evidenced, and the candidate records unit can show you the notices that we have been returned without a zip code, it is undeliverable. The purpose of requiring the candidate's name and residence address and mailing address to be listed on the petition is to allow for the appropriate transmission of notices and/or the service of court papers if necessary. And we have, Commissioners, we've taken the position that says since you need a complete mailing address, that's essential, includes the street number, the house number, the street name, the postal mailing area, as well as the zip code.
Before we have any other further discussion, just for the record, a copy of the calendar has been posted on our wall.
Yes, Commissioners.
Do the commissioners wish to inquire any further? Is there a motion? Move the legal Prima Facie report. Second, all in favor? Anybody opposed, against, abstaining? Motion carries.
Thank you, Commissioners. The legal Prima Facie report is adopted. We will now ask, I'll yield the microphone to Mr. Graves to deal with the candidate records unit's reports.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. In your blue folders, you'll find candidate enrollment issues report and the CRU Prima Facie report. Commissioners, at this time, I've been advised that there are numerous issues with this candidate enrollment report. And I would request that we can hold it over, if possible, to Tuesday's hearing.
I would move that we just calendar this till for next Tuesday, before or after.
We have the OTB hearing scheduled for 1:30, Commissioner, so it's up to you. We can do it as the first item or the second item on the hearing calendar.
All right, can we do it as the first item? Allow our staff to,
We will post a notice accordingly on the website.
is there a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody against or opposed? Motion carries.
For any members of the public, if you are appearing relating to a candidate enrollment issues letter that you received from the board, the commissioners will consider the amended list next Tuesday at 1:30. And if you want to appear at that point, we will, unless commissioners, do you want to hear from anybody that's here today, just in case? Are there anyone here who wanted to appear on any enrollment issues? Yeah, one. Your name and which candidate you're appearing for?
Alexander Rab on behalf of Pat Cousins, candidate for State Committee for the Working Families Party.
Hold on, Pat, let's find this.
It's the last item on the list.
Commissioner, it is page 26 of 27 on the enrollment issues report.
Can we just have Mr. Graves just read that one?
Sure.
For the Working Families Male State Committee, 9th Congressional District, Pat Cousins. Explanation is candidate's registration does not exist for the address submitted on the file.
Sorry?
Identify yourself.
Oh, Alexander Rab, Levy Ratner PC for Patrick Cousins. Commissioners, I have copies of the enrollment record for Patrick Cousins to hand out. Oh, let me just keep one, sorry.
Is it the same address?
It's the same address. I believe the apartment number wasn't on the petition, but 104 East 2nd Street in Brooklyn. And he's enrolled as Patrick Cousins. The petition says Pat.
Pat Cousins is Patrick Cousins?
Yes.
Commissioner, the registration. Commissioners, the registration record provided has a Patrick J. Cousins at 104 East 2nd Street in Brooklyn, New York, as an enrolled member of the Working Families Party.
Is it active?
I can't tell from this copy. This is a copy of the buff card.
Commissioners,
Can you check?
Commissioners, I'll also note that there is no other Pat Cousins that I could find in Kings County.
Well, that's good, because we couldn't find one either, that's why it's on the list.
There you go. Simply, I raise that just to point out that there's no issue of voter confusion here.
The question, has he voted in the last, you have no idea?
I don't know, Commissioner.
We're checking very quickly, so tell me if you right back.
Mr. Rabb, would you mind if we adjourn this for a few moments?
Not at all.
And then we'll call it at the end of the Prima Facie.
That's fine, thank you.
Someone else?
Hi, my name is Valerie Brooks. I was sent a letter saying that my registration did not exist.
Ms. Brooks, what office is this?
Page 2.
Ms. Brooks, where do you live?
333 Lafayette Avenue, apartment 23L, and that is the problem. It has J. But I got my,
Can you hand it up? Hand it up to the gentleman?
Yes.
Have you voted in the last number of years?
Yes, I have.
Oh, okay.
We correct it.
I voted
She
in
is
the last
active as an enrolled member of the Democratic Party. She has consistently voted in all of the elections we ran in 2013.
Okay, notwithstanding her bad judgment, enrolling as a Democrat, I would move that we remove her name from the Prima Facie list.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed or abstained? Motion carries.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Matt.
You wanna do the,
Patrick Cousins is a active enrolled member of the Working Family.
I would move that we remove Pat Cousins from the list.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody abstain or opposed? The motion carries.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Those two candidates will appear on the respective ballots if there's a primary, and then the balance of the list will be considered on Tuesday at 1:30 as the first item of business. Mr. Graves, I think you have the regular CRE Prima Facie report.
Commissioners, continuing on this regular CRE prima facie, we have a number of issues regarding no cover sheet filed. And I've grouped those all together. I'm just going to read the names of the candidates quickly. We have Jill Heyer for the Working Families candidacy, Jonathan H. Anderson, Evelyn Lassell, Menachem M. Wrightport, Jane M. Neal, Sandra A. Palacios Serrano, Linda S. Lyons, all of the Republican Party. And that concludes the issues with no cover sheet filed. Those are petitions that exceed 9 sheets and are multiple volumes.
Are there any appearances on those issues?
There being no appearances, is there a motion? How much more is this?
Quite a lot.
All right, I move that those people stay on the,
Second.
All in favor? Anybody opposed or abstain? Motion carries.
Next, we have issues with printers' error letters for working families. We have Walter T. Mosley, Alec Brooke Crosney, Independence Party, Arthur Taylor, Democratic Party, Menachem M. Wrightport and Robert B. Monago, Republican Party, Renata Jackson and Vera P. Keynes, Republican Party. Those are all the printer's error issues. We have exhibits attached.
Is there any discussion? Is there everyone?
Yes, I'm appearing for for two of those candidates with printer errors letters.
Which two?
In the Independence Party, Alec Brooke Krasny, where they inadvertently printed his name with an extra E. There's an exhibit with a printer's letter attached. And Robert Minago in the 42nd. He's actually in the Democratic Party, enrolled as a Democrat. Oh, my appearance, by the way, is A. Joshua Ehrlich, Albany, New York, for Mr. Brooke Krasny in the Independence Party, and Mr. Minago in the Democratic Party, which should be shown on the sheet with the printer's error letters in both. Mr. Brooke Krasny, there's an extra E added to his name. There's no confusion. The printer made a printing mistake in his name.
Yeah, and we generally accept printers' letters with regard to petitions, but not necessarily on certificates of authorization. So the question is, who were they authorized? And that's a different document, and that's not something that gets printed. That's something that's prepared based on a meeting of the executive committee of, which is this?
The Independence
Party. So that's not something that would generally be covered by a printer's letter.
In this case,
and we have been very little L and quotes liberal, close quote, regarding printer's letters and petition and cover sheets, but on a certificate of authorization, it's another matter. And the question is, who did the Independence Party appoint?
there's no question. There's no question in my mind because it was clear to me that Mr. Brooke Krasny was authorized at the meeting of the Independence Party Executive Committee, and that the error was one of just it's a typo. It's a typo.
Is it the certificate? Is it certificate of authorization? It says certificate of authorization on our. So it's accepted. So he didn't know his own name?
I did not prepare that certificate, but he's the only one with that possible name. There's no possible confusion as to who the candidate is. The authorization is there, and it's correct.
Is the author? Well, it seems.
The authorization
I was confused, but it seems to me that it's more than just the cover sheet, the petition. It's either one or the other of the certificate of authorization.
The authorization is correct.
And clearly, the acceptance ought to have the name correct. That's not too much to ask, I don't think.
But it could be sent as a typo, and there's only one Brooke Krasny. If you looked anywhere in any spelling, there's only one Alec Brooke Krasny, and he's obviously an incumbent.
So
the notary added it.
The notary made the mistake.
And as for the notary, Your Honor, excuse me, Commissioner Germain, as for the notary making the mistake, there's a presumption of regularity as to notarial statements.
I apologize. I'm still trying to figure out what was what. So is it?
There's two defects. There's a defect on the actual petition.
Right, and that I'm prepared, not a problem. Personally, I'm prepared, not a problem, and I'm prepared, not a problem on the cover sheet. But I think that the designating documentation should be right. Now, it's spelled right here, and it's spelled right there.
Spelled wrong in the notary statement.
Spelled wrong in the notary statement.
All right, so then the question is, who came before the notary?
Well, sometimes maybe he didn't look clearly at it, but Steve, you indicated that the name is spelled correctly, but the notary spelled it incorrectly and left the E off? Is that what you're saying? He included the E.
He added an E.
And the candidate obviously spelled his own name right, which
Now, if he
is
spelled
within
his own
the
name
body
right,
of
he
the
should know his
certificate of
name.
acceptance.
That's fine.
Is there a motion?
I moved to put him on the ballot.
Is there a motion? You're moving it in? Right, there's a motion to accept the printer's notification and dismiss the objection with respect to Prima Facie. Is there a second? All in favor? Anybody abstain or oppose? Motion carries.
And I'm here on behalf of Robert Monago in the 42nd Assembly District, a Democratic delegate to Judicial Convention, Democratic. I don't know how it came down as Republican, but he is a Democrat. And again, my appearance is A. Joshua Ehrlich, Albany, New York.
I apologize.
This printer's letter, the printer's error letter, they printed 23rd Street instead of 22nd Street.
Commissioner, on page 9 of the calendar, the second entry, party name involved in the Democratic, not just the Republican, I thought the party name was omitted, it relates to his Democratic Party designating him as a delegate to the convention. And that was exhibit E, and you have a letter from New York City.
So instead of just a Republican.
I apologize.
We should have a parade. But that's a big.
Our report has it.
I'm glad to see we're trying to make more people.
Our report has more. Exhibit listed as a Democratic candidate.
He is a Democratic candidate.
But wait a second.
It says, dear Commissioner, please be advised that the Republican Party.
This exhibit E is a member of the Assembly. Slate has my
Because it's E, not D. The first one after it also says
E,
Republican.
Mr. Railport is a Republican candidate, and the exhibit D relates to his particular.
Right, it's because it was the following document, it got confusing. Okay.
Is there a motion to omit this from the Prima Facie and accept the?
Are there any other appearances on the printed letters?
Yes, there is.
They were called.
This is for Arthur Taylor in the 1st ED 44th Assembly District.
So page 8?
And exhibit C.
We submitted a printer's error letter on July 10th.
Where is it, what page?
Page 8 of 34, exhibit C, the letter. It's for the Democratic County Committee for the first election district for the 4th Assembly.
The issue is you got the wrong zip code, you got a 97.
That was done by the person,
By the person who prepared the petition before you.
Your attorney, Mrs. Wood.
Ms. Wheelock, who prepared the county committee.
Yeah, but Mrs. Wheelock didn't say she made the mistake.
If I'm correct, I don't have the petition myself in front of me, the other 3 members of that county committee in the 1st ED all lived in 11219. And she went down the page and did that. 11218 was listed correctly on the county committee cover sheet.
All right, I would move that this one be excluded as well, and that we accept the printer's letter.
Is there a second? All in favor? Anybody opposed or abstaining? Motion carries.
Thank you.
I just want to end up with all previous ones.
If there's no one else, go ahead.
Oh, Ray Riley on behalf of Renita Jackson and Vera Keynes.
That would be listed as page 10 of 34, exhibit E. No. Exhibit F. No, but for Renita Jackson, both exhibit F? Yeah, it should be exhibit F for both candidates.
Exhibit E.
Page 10. Both Ms. Jackson, it should be exhibit F, not exhibit E.
Both on the same sheet.
And I move that these 2 be excluded from the proclamation.
All in favor? Anybody opposed or abstained? Motion carries.
Good afternoon. One more. Alexander Rabb, New York, for Walter Mosley on the Working Families Party petition. I think you have a printer's error letter as an exhibit. The Working Families Party petition for Walter Mosley, you have a printer's error letter. A staff member for the Working Families Party included an incorrect address for Assemblymember Mosley inadvertently as a result of a database issue, which I can explain if you'd like. There's no intent to confuse the voters here, and no voter confusion can arise from this. He's an incumbent Assemblymember.
No, but there's a big difference between 120 Broadway, New York, and 309 Lafayette Avenue, Brooklyn.
There is.
That's not a digit error or something like that. That's substantial, and it could mean that there's somebody from another borough who's running in an area where they're not, it's not within the district. That's not a printer's error. To me, that's certainly much more substantial.
This is not a printer's letter. This is not a printer's letter, unless the law office does printing.
Well, I mean, they're saying that they made a mistake. They made a typographical error.
But normally it's a printer's letter from a printing agency.
Right.
Commissioner.
But this is from, it's from the
The
law.
law office made the mistake?
No, Commissioner, the Working Families Party printed the petitions in-house. I represent the Working Families Party, so I wrote the letter on their behalf to explain the error. Commissioners,
See, if they had used the union to do the printing, you wouldn't have the problem.
That's what I always tell them.
The Working Families Party ought to
Commissioners, the party generates its petitions based on responses to a questionnaire that they give out to the candidates. The candidates provide the addresses. It appears that a staff person for the assembly member listed a campaign office as the contact address, thinking that that was what it was for, not realizing that this was meant to go on the petitions. The staff member who printed the petitions based on the database responses didn't catch it in time. I think she eventually did catch it, and some of the pages of the petition are correct and have the correct address. I understand that this is a significant error, but it is an error. It is inadvertent. And I would submit that there's really no chance for voter confusion. There's no Walter Mosley at that other address either. This Walter Mosley has already represented the district. He's lived in the district for some number of years, long enough to be qualified to represent the district during his first run. No voter, member of the Working Families Party, could think that they were designating someone with the same name as their assembly person who is a different person and in fact not qualified to serve as their assembly member. It really is an inadvertent error without giving rise to voter confusion.
Is it wrong on the cover sheet too?
I think it was correct on the cover sheet and also on the Wilson cooler.
So did they get a notice on the cover sheet?
Well, the defect we had was did we get a cover sheet defect?
It should be a defect.
But I think some of the petition sheets, Commissioner, I did have the correct address, some did.
Commissioner, my understanding was that they caught the error partway through the petition process.
Yeah, and it was the first sheet of the petition was correct, we didn't know that there was a defect with it. Yeah, you went to the petition.
Commissioner, we don't like to rely on people not noticing the problem, so we brought it to the Commissioner's attention with the letter.
Mr. Whitman, do you have anything to add on this?
The only I can know, Commissioner, this was done timely before the prima facie defect was even noticed and sent out. They made the submission as of right on the 14th, the Monday after the last day to file. Again, this is a claim and this is a judgment call that the commissions have made, whether or not this was an error in the printing of the petitions and whether it serves in any way to defraud the public.
Well, have we in the past accepted a printer's letter where the address was completely wrong as opposed to part of the information being incorrect?
Occasionally, yes, when we've had incorrect either street name or number of designation such as.
But that's part of it.
Yeah,
But see, this is not CPW in Central Park West.
Or Riverside
This is a
Park Drive.
completely different borough. And it's just not the same thing. And it's a material difference, it's another borough, and it's another address. And who knows how many Walter Mosleys there are.
Commissioner, There are no Walter Mosleys at the address at the erroneous address, and there's only one in the district.
But how many are outside the district? Because the petition doesn't refer to him being in the, leading to the question, were there any other addresses or on the petition? I mean, this is not a simple error.
Commissioner,
I don't, at least in my opinion, it's something that's a dramatic change of address.
Also,
We didn't catch the error, they let us know about the error, right?
We received the the printer's error letter prior to sending out a Prima Facie defect. Yeah, no, we Commissioner, by the 14th, we would only be doing cover sheet matching.
They called, she's asking you.
Yes, they brought the error to the attention of the board.
They brought it to our attention.
and
Steve,
Commissioner,
what's been the court's construction with respect to printers' letters? Have they asked or
That,
recommended that it be viewed?
Commissioner, the issue of a printer's letter has never gone to judicial review.
Commissioners, you asked if this has happened before. Unfortunately, this has arisen before in the Working Families Party petition process. In 2012, Charles Rangel's petition bore an incorrect address within the district, but
In the same borough.
within the borough, but a different street number and a different street name.
No, and we do that, and we're very, quote, little L, liberal, close quote, with this stuff all the time. But one thing is within the district, and another in a different borough. They're materially different. And we do it all, we just saw us do it 5 or 6 times. It's very different to be in a different borough. I mean, what if they left off the assembly district in which he was running, and it was really supposed to be 33 instead of 35, I don't know the exact number. I mean, we've held that to be significant because no one knows what the guy's running for. Here, if he lives outside of the borough, no one knows what the guy's running for.
Commissioner, my understanding is that yesterday you did accept a printer's error letter when some sheets of a petition bore the wrong assembly district number.
That is correct, but this is not a printer's letter, and I understand they have done it in-house, but the person that did it should have wrote their own letter. You weren't present when it was done. You know, and the other thing is, and I understand, and it was appreciated that you brought it to our attention, but here's the other thing. Normally, you stated that this mistake was made once before by the working family. So normally you learn your mistakes and you don't let it happen again.
Commissioners, they print petitions for every assembly district and senate district in the city. Yes, they're on the lookout for this, and I try to make sure they are. They do have to rely somewhat on the responses from the candidates. They have a small staff of not terribly experienced people who are doing this. And while they catch errors, they unfortunately occasionally let some through. I do want to point out, Commissioner, that the printer's error letter that you accepted yesterday that had the wrong assembly district was also a letter from me written on behalf of the Working Families Party. Just speak to something Commissioner Humane raised. This did have the correct assembly district. Again, another...
No, I was trying to demonstrate, at least in my mind, which is admittedly small, the difference between a little typo and a completely wrong address in a completely wrong borough. And that's not something that we've, at least in, again, my small recollection, have done in the past. So I would move that we keep this on the prima facie list.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Anybody opposed or abstain? Motion carries.
Thank you, Commissioners.
So as of today, the candidate is off the ballot.
Yes,
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Monty Albrazilian. I received a letter stating that my registration does not exist.
That's an enrollment issue?
Yes.
Well, we agreed to do what everybody was here, so.
Will you call it? What district and what party are you running in?
It's the 67th Assembly District, Democratic Party.
67?
67.
That's
That would have been
That's
yesterday.
This is
That
only
would have been
Brooklyn.
here for yesterday.
What county are you?
I'm sorry?
What county are you?
New York County?
Yesterday.
So is it too late for me to be heard?
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you.
Commissioners, if I'm, now, because with the exception of the first item on printer's errors letter for Mr. Assemblyman Mosley, everything else was approved as a valid printer's error letter? Yeah, I don't think there was a motion actually on Mr. Rayport on the Republicans. We skipped down when we found that there was an error on the Democrat.
All right, we'll move to adopt,
No, we remove all of the printer's error letter list defects, except for Mr. Mosley.
Okay.
On the Working Families Board.
all in favor? Any opposed or abstained? Motion carries.
Commissioners, moving on to page 11, we have issues dealing with declinations. For conservative candidate Philip A. Buccigrossi, we have a late declination filed on July 16th. The deadline was July 14th.
Anyone appearing on this?
Any appearing on it?
Are you Mr. Buccigrossi?
No.
Commissioners, this gentleman was a little confused. I think he didn't realize that you just finished his, he has a residency issue, it looks like, so I don't know. There you go.
What's your name?
My name is Fresnel Augustin, Democratic Middle County Committee.
Which district do you know?
It's a 65, 59.
65 is also on the.
59 to AD, then that's the ED.
AD 59, ED 65.
Yeah, 6559, page 9, in the Senate.
Can you spell that?
Yeah, what happened is,
Just wait a second. He's in.
Yeah, that's Democratic Vale County Committee, 65th ED, 59th AD, Fresno, Augustine. Candidate's registration does not exist for the address on the file document.
Do you have some documentation?
yeah, what happened is I'm using two addresses.
Say that again?
I got two addresses, one at 735 East 82nd Street. That's where I registered to vote. But I got proof that I've been using both houses of my house. And one district is one block for the other. One it is one block. One is on Avenue K and East 83rd Street. The other one is East 82nd Street and Avenue J. So it's one block from another. So I'm registered to vote at East 82nd Street, 735 East 82nd Street. And I got proof here of both addresses.
Which address do you live at?
I live on Avenue K, but this 735 East 82nd Street is also my house.
Well, to which address are you registered to vote?
I registered to vote at 735 East 82nd Street, which I never changed.
But you live in the other address.
Yes, in the other address.
Which address is in the correct district for which you're running? They're both
in the assembly district.
The same assembly district, but different ED.
Commissioners, if he is a resident and enrolled member of the party within the district, assembly district is eligible to be elected from any equal in that assembly district. So the only question is that I guess on the petition, they put your mailing address now?
I could show you proof of both mailing addresses, say legal proof, gas bill, Burnfield.
Which address do you claim to be your residence?
For your voting.
My residence, I would say Avenue K, but
I move that we take, I apologize, I'll let you what your last name is, off the list, and we give him a new registration form and ask him to register at the address that we're gonna give you a choice.
Okay.
You register at one address or another, and then stick to it on your election documentation, okay?
Okay then.
Is there a second? All in favor? Anybody opposed or abstain? Motion carried.
Okay. And, somebody will give them a registration form?
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Commissioners, moving on to our other declination issues. On page 12, Democratic Party, we have Demetrius S. Lawrence, who, he's our,
Is there something up on the podium that somebody left?
Yeah, I think this is, that's his,
No, that was all.
that's a different note.
I'm sorry, Commissioners.
Commissioners, you've already removed Mr. Lawrence Prima Facie, failing to file a cover sheet. You then filed a declination late too.
So if he's off, he's off.
This recess move. Is there a second? All in favor? Anybody opposed or abstain? Motion carried.
Going on next, we have Eva Hirsch. This is page 12. Declination states 82 ED 41 AD. Candidate was submitted for 80 ED 41st AD. Declination was filed due on the 14th, filed late on July 23rd.
You only have one card?
Well, it's long and it's late, so it doesn't count. I would move that the declination remain on this. Unfortunately, she has to be a candidate.
And
Is there a second? Anybody opposed or
it's going on
abstain?
Butch Gavin. And then the Conservative Party, this is page 11. You want to do both of them together? Those are both filed late.
Okay.
Do you amend your motion to approve that as well?
Yes, to include Mr.
Is
Foster.
there a second on the amendment?
No.
All in favor? Anybody opposed or abstain? The motion carried.
Moving on to page 13, we have a
Mr. Foster here?
certificate of death was submitted for Mr. Foster.
Certificate before or after?
I move that Mr. Foster be taken off by reason of his death.
All in favor? Anybody opposed or abstain? Motion carried.
Moving forward, we have a letter from a Conservative County Committee candidate, Janet Marcolini, requesting to have the candidacy removed. She does not wish to be a candidate.
Was this done timely?
No, it was filed July 25th. The last day of decline was July 14th.
In her defense, she called me on the phone and responded to receiving a notice to choose, a Chinese translation, that's right. So she didn't know, even though she stated she didn't even know she was put up for it. She responded to the letter.
Look, how do you know this is her? It's not sworn to him, there's no identification. How do you know it's the same Janet who's on the list?
And the Commissioner, the declination requires to be acknowledged before a notary public of political fees can be found.
Sometimes we'll lose it.
Did you speak with on the phone, Matt?
I did.
Was it
I
before
did.
the 14th?
No.
Probably not, because you wouldn't have gotten the Chinese letter.
She responded rather late with the letter.
Did she have a change of heart, or what was the reason?
No, she was not interested whatsoever in it.
Apparently didn't know until she got a letter about Chinese happens oftentimes, especially in county committee, where people are surprised to learn that they are elected or otherwise members of the county committee. What was the conclusion that was made based on the conversation?
Well, I would say the letter is the conclusion. I recommended to her that she could send some correspondence in.
The letter was sent after you spoke to her?
Yes.
You asked her, oh, I'm sorry, you asked her to send in the letter?
No, she asked me what could she do at that point, and I said, well, it's too late to decline. The only thing that you could possibly do is send some correspondence regarding your wishes.
And when was that?
That would have been,
Well, no, she could get elected and then she could resign, so that's.
I don't think one date on the list.
7/23, and we received it on July 25th.
We filed like July 14th.
Correct.
yeah.
And
She called me after that.
case law holds that no person whose name should appear on a designated petition without their consent. So this goes back to whether or not they actually obtained the consent of the individual involved, and that's a question that's beyond our jurisdiction.
And the concern I have is I'm not sure if this is the same person who's declined, which is the issue. Is there a motion? I would move that we not accept this declaration in light of the fact that we need more information with respect to if this is in fact the same person. That it was moved. Is there a second? Second. All in favor? Anybody opposed or abstain? Two abstain, one abstention, motion carries. Two abstentions. Does not carry?
That vote doesn't count. But he's still on the ballot.
Right.
Regardless. Two abstentions. So the prima facie finding is not adopted, the candidate remains on the ballot.
All right, moving along to page 15. We have a Democratic issue regarding Cyril F. Joseph for petition KG 140-1106. Position title stated on petitions. NYS committee member is not a clear position title. See exhibit L.
With respect to this, I believe Commissioner Dent make a statement.
Yes, as it relates to Cyril Joseph, I have to recuse myself, reserve on the committee report.
Commissioners, and I'm sorry I don't have the case in front of me, but this board has been the subject of a lawsuit, and we're losing end. There's a specific position described as member of the New York State Democratic Committee, parentheses, either male or female, district leader, or any other title is not valid, and that went to be litigated up through and over the appellate division. And I don't know if Mr. Feldman can, went to the Court of Appeals.
Court of Appeals.
We did go to the court, thank you, Mr. Feldman. Went to the Court of Appeals, and the decision is clear, so this title does not mean, is meaningless. New York State Committee member doesn't have any meaning.
The Brooklyn Republicans have a different name other than district leader. Do the Democrats as well?
The Democrats do not have district leaders. In Kings County, you're either a member of the Democratic State Committee, male or female, and then by virtue of the party rules, you're an ex officio considered a member of the executive committee. There are no district leader positions. Is there any appearances?
Cyril Joseph. Part of your constituency by designating male and female? Does it, what about?
Party rules mandate that, equal gender, equal division. Mr. Joseph, you want to speak? You need a notice of appearance?
Yes, I need to speak on that. Now, the only...
You have a notice of appearance?
Did you fill out a notice of appearance?
Yes, I do.
Can you hand it up? Thank you. Yes, Mr. Richmond?
And the only, Commissioners, also the party call filed for the both New York State Democratic Committee and by the Kings County Democratic County Committee sets forth the party positions to be elected in the form I set forth. So those documents were filed in accordance with the election law and available for public inspection prior to the commencement of petition.
Mr. Joseph?
Yes, sir?
Is there something you want?
Yeah, what I wanted to add is that I did not file to be district leader. I am elected state Democratic Committee member for the state of New York, which I goes to meeting in the fall and the spring. And that's the office that I applied for as New York State. Was a file on a different agenda or different heading because when I was appointed at that...
Mr. Joseph, your petition does not have the full title. It just says New York State Committee member, male. It doesn't state New York State Democratic Committee member. State.
if you look at the amendment that they have, it's the Democratic Party.
What
And
amendment?
We're
looking at the petitions. You have a copy of your petition?
Yes, I do. Copies are right there. On the one that I filed with you, the Vendex, you have a copy there. It's the party opposition. It's the Democratic Party.
It's not. It's different. That's amendment.
There's a copy of it right here.
Commissioners, I'm also advised that the candidate has already been removed since he filed an invalid cover sheet cure by vote of the Commissioners Committee on July 25th. This issue is technically moved. I move
Is there a second?
The invalid cover sheet, I would like to address that, please, if you don't mind.
The Commissioner has indicated to us that you're already off as a result of a cover sheet defect that was not cured. So there's a motion now by one commissioner and seconded by another commissioner to dismiss this as moot, as not being an issue anymore. All in favor?
You're already off the ballot, that's all.
Right, I understand that, but what I'm saying, don't have a right to respond to that because your removal of the
You're right to
volume.
respond with respect to the cover sheet.
Yes.
Right, which you did not respond to then.
I did.
Incorrectly.
I did. I did respond to the cover sheet. I have a minute cover sheet, and the volume numbers that you gave me when I filed my petitions are not the numbers that's on the petitions. That's what I'm saying.
That's your issue there. Unfortunately, we don't have that before us. So
Well, I have it right there for you.
I understand that.
That was given to me by the
That's
Board
not
of
on the
Election.
calendar today, sir. This is on the abstain. The motion carries.
You abstain.
You abstain. One abstention.
The prima facie defect relating to the petition is dismissed. The candidate remains though off the ballot for the cover sheet.
Muriel Goldstein, Cynthia Reich, Edward Burke, Alan Podhazer, Roseanne Cohen, Rosalind Gunner, Joel H. Harmel, Marshall Sorgan, Diane Cohen, Iris Cohen, Ada Rivera, Maria Crespo, Stephen Chizzolo, Mark Davidovich, Yvonne Wigan, Anita Garcia, Teresa Cruz, Natalia Roque, Rafael Barbosa, Alberto Roque, George L. Rodriguez, and Lowell M. Rubin, Susan Stamler, Alice Fisher Rubin, Irma Rivera, Jennifer R. Conley, Peter Massanet, Joseph Massanet, Marie Massanet, Jenna Massanet.
Any appearances on those county committee open designations?
Yes, I'm here for the 53rd ED and the 44th AD. The four candidates listed are Susan Stamler, Alice Fisher Rubin, George L. Rodriguez, and Lowell M. Rubin.
Page 21 and 22. If the vote for one, there were two candidates filed on the petition.
Yeah, I believe it was. I believe there were four filed. Was it a vote?
Two male, two
Yeah.
female, no designation.
Yeah, and we request that the first male and the first female.
Case law requires commissioners in the event of an over designation, no candidate appears on the ballot, and that it will be up to the county committee to fill any said vacancies.
I move that we maintain them on
All of those candidates will not appear on the ballot.
Next, Commissioners, we have on page 24, Democratic issue for a general objection. I believe this relates to the specs. Do we have?
Candidates off the ballot. Commissioner, this relates to a candidate that has been removed already from the ballot for failing to file a cover sheet. This is Demetrius S. Lawrence, so I would assume in respect to be dismissed.
Dismiss is moved. Is there a second? All in favor? Anybody opposed or abstaining? Motion carries.
Next, we have Victor A. Jordan, candidate, Irene Cook, objection for objection number 7, general objection, election event and petition type not specified on the general. I'm sorry. Objection 7, the election event and petition type is not specified on the general objection.
It's Exhibit S.
I appear for Victor Jordan, and
You're the candidate?
I am not the candidate, I'm the attorney for the candidate. My name is Bernard Udell, and I believe that the objection is proper and the specifications are improper, and the board's decision should be dismissed.
You agree with the Prima Facie?
I agree.
For the objector, this is going to come back because the first set of specs and first generals were filed against the petition that had no pagination. So this prima facie, in and of itself, is valid. Because the first set of specs, there's no proof of service.
So there's a second set of specs that were filed?
Yes, coming on, yes.
The general objection, Commissioners, if you look at the exhibit, the election event was not set forth.
Okay. The point, we have what we have, so
Move that we maintain this one on the Prima Facie.
Second. Second. Anybody opposed or abstained?
General objection.
Next, on page 25, we have an issue regarding specification KG 14-1. We have an issue regarding spec 14, candidate Mikhail Usher and objector Joseph Hayon. Candidate name and address not filled in on specification.
That is Exhibit T, Commissioners. Any appearances for the objector, Mr. Hayon?
Is there a motion to accept the CIU Prima Facie report as it relates to this? Is there a second? Second. All in favor? Anybody opposed or abstaining? The motion carries.
Now, the spec is dismissed.
Next, we have for spec 28, Kings 28, no proof of service filed. Objector is Ben Axelrod.
Against Stephen Symbols.
Susan Morrow from Abrams Fensterman for the candidate.
Do we have a notice?
Yes.
Anyone else appearing?
Hey, Joshua Ehrlich, Albany, New York, for the candidate.
Do you wish to add anything to this?
No, looks good to us.
Move to accept the CIU Prima Facie report as it relates to this spec. Is there a second? All in favor? Anybody opposed or abstained? The motion carries.
Thank you.
Commissioners, we have the same issue regarding spec 17. The objector is Antoine Federick, no proof of service filed.
Any appearances? Is there a motion to accept the CIU Prima Facie report?
Again, Commissioners, we have the same issue regarding spec 21, Bella Akmeket, objector, no proof of service filed.
J. Joshua Ehrlich for the candidate. Again,
Notice?
I gave it in already. For both.
Same case?
Same case.
No, it's a different objector.
I'll make it one.
Here, please,
Here.
I'll do it. Okay, Susan Morrow again for from Abrams Fensterman.
Do you wish to add anything?
No, we're good.
Is there a motion to accept the CIU Prima Facie report? Is there a second? All in favor? Anybody opposed or abstained? The motion carries.
finish your homework.
Next, Commissioners, we have an issue with spec 41, Independence Party. Candidate Alec Brooke-Crosney, objector Daniel Salvin. All three proof of service failed to comply with Rule H11 designating rules.
Well, at least we spelled Mr. Krasny's name right.
I don't have to argue this one.
Okay.
So our notice has been handed in already. Susan Morrow from Abrams Fensterman.
Yeah, on spec 41.
I have copies.
We'll give you another one.
We only have one for spec
Here.
number 21 dash.
Here, here's another one.
Let me just reiterate, you have to file a notice of appearance for every single case that you're appearing on, because you have different parties on these things. Thank you.
Yes, we did. Hello, Liam McCabe, representing Daniel Slavin. Hello, Commissioners, I have several arguments to make. One is that we are objecting to a petition that should have been thrown out on its face. It is inherently defective. We have copies of it, 6 pages, and only 10 signatures per page. It couldn't even possibly have the right amount. I have a clerk's report here that says you need 101. It actually has 39 signatures, but it couldn't even possibly have enough. It could only possibly have 60. It's 6 pages. 6 times 10 is 60. But what we're here to say, though, is that we adhered and complied to the rules and the law, specifically H11. And I just want to quote H11. That's what this matter is about. Proof of service. Proof of service is specifications must identify the specifications related to by either including the borough and general objection specification number on the proof of service or attaching the proof of service to a copy of the first page of the specification. Must be filed in person in the executive office, so on and so forth. What we are saying is that we filed it correctly. We complied with the law, so this is not even an issue. Daniel filed the spec with the cover sheet. I have a copy of that. Everything in the cover sheet is compliant. Daniel Slevin, his address, objectors, the contact person, the name of the candidate, Alec McCroskey, the candidate's residence, the office, the district, the political party, the volume number, the contact person, Jonathan Yedid, signed. The spec is only 1 page because it just addresses the fact that he doesn't have enough signatures. We're talking about a petition that is invalid on its face to begin with. There doesn't even really need to be an objection. It should be, according to the rules, be thrown out on its face. But the proof,
can we just see
is
the
correct.
spec?
Commissioner, candidate records has provided 2 proof of certified mail receipts, neither of which include the general objection or specification number, and a handwritten statement of a proof of service that still does not include either the specification or objection number.
The proofs were attached, as the rule requires. The proofs were attached.
How did you attach to a copy of the first page of the spec?
No, of a copy of the first page, correct. A copy of the first page of the spec.
How was it attached?
With a paper clip.
Those documents were handed to me in CRU as is.
Not paperclip.
So there was not, Mr. Graves, there was nothing attached to this? Are you sure?
If anything, it was handed to me with the spec, but if there's a paperclip involved, I don't know about it. This was handed in.
May I say something? First of all, if you look at the copy, and I have a copy of the proof of service and a copy of the spec, substantiating our argument is that if you look at the timestamp, they're timestamped literally the same minute of the same day. That would substantiate our argument that we handed it all in together. Where the missing paperclip is, I don't know. Well, but there is substantial compliance in the sense you have the proof of service timestamped exactly the same minute we handed in the spec. And further, let me also say this: the objection ledger of the Board of Elections notes in the correct space of the spec. You guys put it in that folder and then told the world on the objection ledger it's in the right place. Here, I'll show you. The objection ledger. This is a Board of Elections document. This is not mine. It says it right here. Section 41 on the side in the remarks, 3 proofs of service, 2 files, 716, 1 on 716, right here. So the board is admitting via the objection ledger that they go in the right place. So the board is aware of it. It's right here on the Board of Elections document if you want to see. This is a copy of the objection ledger 721, 2014.
So looking at your proof of service here is dated July 17th, 2014, 11:57 p.m. And then the 2 receipts are July 16th, 2:04 p.m.
Yes.
And it should
So
not
I'm
be
glad,
attached-
I'm glad you brought that
But
point
it
up.
should not be attached to the specification. It's supposed to be attached to a copy of the.
It was
first
attached to a
page of the
copy
spec.
of the specifications. That's what
No,
we're
the
saying.
first page of the spec. It's not a complete set of specs.
That's not what we're saying. That's not what we're saying. That's what you're saying. What we're saying is we attach it to a copy of the first page. At the same time that we filed the spec. And the proofs of service have the timestamp. And furthermore, when we realized there was a problem, we were never notified, by the way, by the board. At like 11:30 at night, when we were here at 42, we ran across the street to 32, and in haste wrote this statement, Daniel Slavin wrote. I was actually the notary. It's time-stamped 11:57. We had 3 minutes to go. Now, he says here, I, Daniel Slavin, residing at 3860 Poplar Avenue, Brooklyn, New York, sent proof of service via mail to Alec Procrastney on July 16th, 2014, the specification pertaining to KG, so on and so forth. It lists the volume number. The intent is clear, is what I'm trying to say, that there is substantial compliance here. You guys know what we're getting at. I mean, and again, we're arguing about a petition that has 39 signatures when you need 100. What is more important here, the rule of law, a legitimate candidate, or Rule H11? Are we going to bow to H11, or are we going to do what's in the people's interest? It's crazy. But I'm not finished. Hold on.
Do you have a copy of what you filed? You said you had a copy of what you
I have more
filed. You said you had a copy of what you had filed? Do you have that with you?
Yeah, we have copies. I have.
Can you bring it up?
Sure. Here's the objection. Actually, I have copies for it. I'm passing them around here. You'll have to apologize. They're paper clips.
So you didn't learn the first time.
Does it have the?
At least now you got it.
Sir, does it have the exhibit? Sir?
But they certainly are attached to each other.
Is there an exhibit containing the first page of the objection attached to what you're circulating?
No, there isn't.
This doesn't have the exhibit of the spec sheet that you attached?
Yes, it does. There's a copy of the first page of the spec sheet.
Oh,
There
so
is.
it is attached?
It is attached to that,
And
yes, it is.
Okay, that's, okay.
As well as the objection ledger, which shows in the remarks column that the objections, the board recognized the objections pertain to spec number 41. And the timestamps with the cover sheet of the spec as well as the proofs of service within the same minute of each other.
Counselor, do we get to see one too?
Oh, we're giving you one. Yeah, he passed the ball up. Could you share?
So it's you're saying that this is a complete set of what you filed that day?
No, that's not a complete set of what we filed. We didn't file, that's a clerk's report as well. I'm giving you extra. That's a clerk's report from the Board of Elections. I'm glad you asked that. A clerk's report that says the candidate has 39 signatures. I attached that as well.
I asked the question, excuse me.
Sorry.
I asked the question before and you had answered it. My question was, is what you were circulating.
Right.
It has a copy of the
cover sheet.
Yeah.
The proofs of
but it
service.
doesn't- at least what I see in front of me does not contain the exhibit with the cover sheet for the objection, which is what you said you filed. So so the question is this not complete? Or were you?
The spec objection you have is after the process by CRU. It's not a copy of what he handed in, because it has the number KG 41-1, which would be added, I believe, by Mr. Gray.
Yeah, the only.
So if they had a proof of service that these certificates were attached to that, they would have a copy without the specification number on it, because he wouldn't have it there.
Well, Mr. Richard, I was in the middle of inquiring, because I asked the question as to whether or not in other words, what you're submitting to us now does not contain the copy of the first page of the specifications.
Correct.
Which is what you say that you filed.
Correct. It's a copy of.
So what you did file did have a copy with it.
Correct.
So how come you didn't submit that to us right now? As part of what the copies of what you submitted.
I apologize. I figured that the cover sheet timestamp would be sufficient. It's the same thing without the timestamp, though. I thought it would be sufficient.
I understand. So though, when you did file it, it did contain that exhibit.
Correct. Can I continue?
Well, let me just ask this, does the candidate want to address after or point by point?
I think, let him finish and,
Very kind.
You know, we also want to bring up the fact of the clerk's report, and that was attached.
Not on the clerk's report. We're not dealing with the clerk's report right now. This is solely on the proof of service.
Okay. What we want to say and end with that in terms of the proof of service is that we were compliant in the rule. Now, I understand that there's an argument as to whether a paperclip, I actually spoke with Mr. Graves, a paperclip would have been more sufficient, but we complied with the law. So what we're saying is that the objection should stand. And again, this is an objection on a petition that is invalid on its face, but neither here nor there, the objection should stand because it's compliant. However, even if it's not on H11 on the paperclip issue, if that's the case, fine. Even if that weren't the issue, we're still substantially compliant because all the evidence is there, all the paperwork is there, everything is there to say that Daniel is a registered Independence Party voter in the district, objected in a legal and legitimate way to a petition that was completely invalid.
What about this issue that the final proof of service that was filed on 11/57 lists the volume number? How many volumes were there?
One.
One volume.
There's one volume, 6 pages. There's only a possibility, even if every signature.
We understand.
Okay.
Yeah, we got that part. Candidate?
Commissioners, this is not on the merits. The matter before you is on jurisdiction. The rules of the board require strict compliance when it comes to objections and specifications, substantial compliance when it comes to matters of putting a candidate on the ballot like a petition itself. In this particular case, as a matter of jurisdiction, the objector has failed in proving they've asserted appropriate jurisdiction, complying with the rules of this board, and for the same reasons as outlined in the Prima Facie report, the matter must be stricken.
But, Mr. Richmond, on where it's 39 signatures and it should be 100 and it's only 6 pages, don't our clerks look at it and can tell there's 100 off there? Wouldn't it fail some kind of test and it would be on the Prima Facie first?
That's Commissioner, that's a judgment call made by the
who?
staff of the candidate records unit. If it appears on its face, and the court would say so obvious, for example.
Who's to say so?
Yesterday's case where 500 signatures were required and 1 signature was submitted, that obviously failed.
We have the petition here?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, I understand that.
Here
but
it
I'm
is.
saying
There it
it's
is
not
right here,
that
6
many.
pages. And
Can
who's
I
to
see
say?
it?
That's a copy.
That's a copy of the petition? Let me see the original.
Steve, do we have a copy of the timestamp of the specific specs filed?
Well, do you have the specs in front of you? Do you have the specs?
There's no specs? There's no specs?
2:04 p.m.
If and I'm just looking at it, if I was looking at this petition and I was in a hurry and I wanted to go fast or whatever, and I know there's a requirement of 100 signatures, and I looked at the first page, and I looked at the last page, and it's 6 pages. But,
you know the requirement?
Huh?
It's 5% of the enrolled members of the party in the district. It's not the statutory minimum, it's the staff. They do, the staff of CIU does not calculate the 5% rule. That's only when an objection comes in and it's referred to the boroughs and calculate.
So you're saying, so then, if it's obvious or not obvious, so what, we can't have, if it's obvious, the court says it's obvious. To me, if minimum signatures, 100 signatures, it's only 6 pages, the maximum you could have is 60, because this is 10, right? So, we didn't even look at this, but we're arguing over a paperclip.
That's what I'm trying to say. Thank you very much.
Oh, I understood, I finally got it.
I mean, the law is vague and arbitrary. Like, we're arguing over paper.
But that's what there's, it's more than a paperclip.
It's more than a paperclip. And I think the issue is that there's a claim that something was filed and we don't seem to have it. So one thing that we could do is perhaps, is Mr. Slavin the one who did this here? Would he be willing to, if I swore him in, to state before us under oath that he filed a copy of the first page of the petition, I'm sorry, first page of the objection, along with the proof of service, and swear to? Well, all right. Is the testimony you're about to give the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Raise your right hand.
Is the testimony you're about to give the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
So help you God? Okay.
So I came to the Board of Elections.
No. I'm just going to ask you one question. When you filed the proof of service, was it attached by paperclip or otherwise to the first page of the objection?
Yes.
Okay.
Do they have the right to ask them? You have first, yes, questions, and if you want to extend that courtesy, those type of questions.
Should we allow, it should be fair enough to allow them to ask the question. Sure.
Do you wish to question him on that?
With all due respect, Commissioners, notwithstanding the incredibly high position we hold this board in and have for many years, this is not a court of law, and it's not an appropriate place to do a fact-finding outside of your statutory jurisdiction regarding voter eligibility. That we would ask that you accept our exception to this proceeding as it relates to taking statements of a fact-based nature from an objector or, for that matter, a candidate.
We have on occasion sworn in people as deemed necessary by the board in order to assert certain facts necessary for the board to comply with their duties, and this is one such situation. So, if no, there's no other request for questions, Mr. Smith?
One question, would you
Yes.
When you filed the spec together with the copy of the first page of the specs, were you given a copy of that by the board staff?
Copy
Of what you filed, clocked in copy?
Yes.
Do you have a copy of that, that was filed, that you given? Because we haven't been given that yet with respect to the first page of the spec.
I believe what we have is
Well, the question's to him.
Do you have a copy of what the board staff gave back to you that evening?
No.
But were you given a copy?
Of the, what, the number of
Of
documents?
the materials you filed on the 16th?
I was given a copy of some of it.
What were
Copy
you
of
given?
what? I'm sorry.
He said some of it. Okay. What were you given copies
The
of?
first page and the copy of the spec.
Were you given copies of the proof of service?
Yes.
And do you have them?
No, these were copies I got from the board. We don't have the copies of that we received. We have copies from the board, some of the copies we received. I mean,
Are you satisfied?
Yeah. They don't have
It's the
copies.
same stuff.
They did file it, they don't have copies to show.
Is there a motion?
We have copies of it.
Is there a motion?
Commissioners,
Yes.
with all due respect, we would obviously yield if there were a copy of a proof of service or a copy of a document with the certificates of mailing attached to the spec cover page, and/or we would yield if the reverse side of those certificates of mailing were suitably endorsed with the spec number. Either of those options would clearly indicate compliance by the objector to the rules of this agency. As much as we are moved by the objector's testimony, this board is being asked to go on faith and limited representation as to what in fact you received. And there's no evidence before you of a tangential, substantial nature of what in fact this agency received.
There's substantial evidence that we complied with the rule. And again, it's amazing that we want to talk about complying with the rule of an objection when the petition the petition on its face.
We got it, we got it.
But it's amazing, it's
So,
amazing.
so the issue before us, and we understand.
I understand.
The issue before us now is whether or not the proof of services as a totality were substantially compliant with the law. And unfortunately for your position, Mr. Feldman echoed the standard that you need to comply with. So the question for us is the 3 filings plus your client's sworn testimony before this board that he filed it with the proof of service with the right stuff. Is that substantial compliance sufficient to meet the test of strict scrutiny and stricter compliance? And the law is that people trying to knock people off the ballot have a higher burden than people trying to get on the ballot, because there's a presumption of trying to have people be on rather than get knocked off on technicalities. And someone who is trying to knock somebody off on technicality, and it may be that a woefully deficient number of signatures is not a technicality, but that's the process that we have. So that's the standard that you have to meet. It's a higher one, but that's the decision that the 8 of us have to conclude, whether the 3 separate filings, the fact that we knew where it was and found up in the book, and your client's sworn testimony to us that he did file it, and whether there was board error. And what we have done in the past, in the event of board error, we have made accommodations, which is what I was trying to do. It most certainly would have helped your position here to be able to come in with a full package of what you actually did file, and unfortunately you have none of it. You don't even have the original copy of what we had. But it may be consistent that that was stapled together and you lost both of them at the same time. I don't know, but that's what we have to decide, and I think.
Well, can I just say this?
Yeah, but please don't say that there are only 39 signatures.
Okay. That's what he said, and the clerk's report shows that. Standard on this objection.
It is a high standard.
And I understand why, and you articulated that. There ought to be as high a standard for getting on the line.
But that's not for us. That's for the courts.
But to address your issue, again, with testimony, with 3 proofs of service, I believe we have proven that case. That
Mr. Feldman's going to say you haven't, so we have to decide.
I understand. Thank you.
It appeared that you informed them of the motion.
I don't know, can we reserve, I mean, I would like to think about it, unless somebody wants to make a motion. I think that there is pretty close to substantial compliance here. I'm not sure whether I'm persuaded or not, but can we put this on second call?
Yes. The Prima Facie calendar, item of spec, KG 41-1 is with the second call. Next, Commissioner, we're now on page 29 of the calendar.
Commissioners, we are now on page 29 of the CRU Prima Facie calendar. We have additional democratic issues regarding spec KG 76, Objector Antoine Federick, proof of service attached, found within original specification. Violation of Rule H11.
Any appearances?
No appearances? You want to continue with the calendar? Or
Keep going.
Next, we have spec KG 130, Velvet Montgomery candidate, Barbara Taylor, objector. Proof of service filed with no objection number, violates Rule H11. We also have a specification that is frivolous. Now, I do not have an exhibit on that, but I'll pass that up to you if you wish.
Is anyone present?
I have a copy of the specification as well.
Is it broad? Broad?
I would like to note that the general objection for this was filed a day late, and so that I don't even think that you can rule on the specific objection since the general was filed late.
I think there were cures involved, weren't there?
There was an amended cover sheet filed by Senator Montgomery on July 10th, but I believe Ms. Taylor's general was filed on July 15th, which would have been a day after the deadline.
So it would have been more than 3 days after the last piece of the petition process was...
That is correct. I believe if she were to file a general against Senator Montgomery, she should have filed that general on July 14th, and she filed it on July 15th, because Ms. Montgomery filed an amended cover sheet on July 10th.
Mr. Carroll, hold on just 1 second, we're going to check, because that would be...
Excuse me, I have papers. Okay, do you want them now?
What was the amended file? Mr. Thomas, anything you want to report?
The cover sheet was filed on 7/10 at 2:22 p.m.
Commissioners, under the election law, they had 3 days following the filing, the last part of the petition. Thursday, the 10th was the last day to file, the 11th was Friday, the third day would have been Sunday, so the last day to actually file the general objection would have been on the 14th. And the objection was filed when, Nat? General objection number 130-1?
It was filed on the 15th, but I was told it was still additional time to file it.
Just Taylor knows which file that late beyond the... I think that we just double check.
We need to check our records.
Commissioners, I have the amended cover sheet. It was filed on July 10th at 2:42 p.m.
The objection was filed on July 15th.
Okay, and do we have now showing that she did file even though she said on the 15th?
Yeah, that's the 15th, because there's timestamp. We have, Commissioner, we have a general objection from Ms. Taylor to the petition of Senator Montgomery, clocked in by the board on July 15th, 2014 at 4:33 p.m. with a notation on the general objection by the staff of the Candidate Records Unit that the general objection was filed late.
Thank you.
Is there a motion?
I move that the objection be maintained on the...
It's been seconded by Commissioner Dent. All in favor? Anybody opposed or abstain? Motion carries.
Well, I would like to just ask if you could consider the defense submitted on the written that today states under election law 154-2, there is additional time you may file it 3 days within the filing of the petition, or 3 days within the filing of the certificate if the certificate is not filed. and they have not submitted
Ms.
any.
Taylor, there is no certificate required for an enrolled Democrat running for a Democratic Party designation. No certificates have to be filed. A petition has to be filed, a cover sheet, in this case an amended cover sheet was filed. That concluded the process on the 10th. Therefore, the time to file a general objection expired at midnight on the 14th.
The only time you need a certificate is if it's someone from another party or someone not enrolled seeking the designation or nomination of another party. In those circumstances, you need to file a certificate, but not.
I have a specific situation, and I think that's the only way to raise the political party to actually submit it.
All right, but unfortunately, that's not before us, so we're gonna have to move on. We still have a voluminous calendar here.
So who should the matter be referred to?
We do not provide legal advice. The board is finished with the matter.
Can we call the next case?
Yeah.
We did, no.
Commissioners, on that page, there was no motion on the dismissal under Rule 811 of the objection, spec KG 76-1.
And we move to adopt the City of Prima Facie report as it relates to KG 76-1. Is there a second? All in favor? Anybody opposed or abstained? Motion carries.
Next, we have an issue regarding specs 131 and 132. Objectors Basil L. Bailey and Myrtle Brunson against Victor A. Jordan and Beverly Brathwaite. Proof of service filed with no objection number violates Rule H11 and H9B regarding Brathwaite, who is neither contact person or first person. On the COE.
Appearing for the candidate, Bernard Udell, I move to vacate the entire proceedings of the
Did
board.
you file a notice of appearance?
Yes, I have notice of appearance.
For the objector, can you place your name on the record?
Bernard Udell, my address is 26.
No, for the objector. You already put your attention.
For the objector, A. Joshua Ehrlich, Albany, New York, I have my notice of appearance in this matter. I represent Pamela Lawrence Sells against Beverly Brathwaite. We are in court, Your Honor, on a candidate agreed. The specs were served. I believe here what you're saying. If I heard the commissioners correctly, they're saying that as to Ms. Brathwaite, the proof of service was filed a day late. Is that what I heard?
Proof of service filed with no objection.
No objection on Ms. Brathwaite.
No objection, no, all of them.
Well, if I may, on Victor Jordan, the proof of service had no objection number. Whereas on Beverly Brathwaite, there was an objection number, 131. However, it violates H9B regarding being sent to the contact person or the first person. She's neither. She's the female state committee.
So that it was served on the wrong person?
Yes, under our rules for party division B, that to serve the contact person or the first name person to make not the candidate, only candidates for public office get served correctly.
Who served who was the person served?
It was served on
Ms. Brathwaite.
Ms. Brathwaite, who is the female state committee candidate.
So you have anything to add to that?
Actually, there are 6 violations, 3 against Brathwaite, 3 against Jordan. I move to dismiss the entire proceedings by the board because service is defective.
Your Honor, I've seen the documents. There's not much I can say other than room court on a
Will we
candidate.
continue this on the vote?
Is there a second? All in favor? Anybody opposed or abstaining? Motion carries.
Your Honor, may I at some time argue a proceeding with regard to a candidate who was taken off the ballot? He did not appear on the, for an improper cover sheet, or shall I wait? It does not appear on the calendar today.
That is not before the commissioners today. That determination was made, any remedies are under Article 60. The date of the determination.
Well, will the board hear it anyway? And since we're here, I have the candidate here, I have the documents here, and it's not very complicated.
But that's not something that we would hear. There's nothing to hear.
Me? The name of the, is it candidates for the 55th Assembly District?
We're not gonna hear it, sir.
All right.
We can't. Let's move on to the next case.
Continuing with the next matter, regarding spec KG 101, Mark Lieberman candidate, Myrtle Brunson objector, proof of service filed with no objection number. Violates H11.
Any appearances?
Josh, is that yours?
Which one?
Is anyone appearing?
Which objection?
Brunson against Lieberman.
Brunson against Lieberman is mine, Your Honor, yes.
Proof of service filed with no objection number. Notice of appearance?
Yeah, hold on.
Commissioners, I should also point out that the next spec 103, it's the same proof of service.
Same parties?
Same issue. I would add to Jason Goldstone objector, is the only difference there.
What was the spec number?
101. 101 and then 103.
No, I don't have 103. I have 101.
Yeah, I got them all. 101.
As to
Greg,
spec,
could you give us your
Oh, for the candidate Mark Lieberman, Arthur Gregg, 401 Broadway, New York.
as to spec 101. Proof of service filed with no objection number.
Your Honor, I did not,
Same argument?
yes, I have no argument here. We're in court anyway.
Move to
Number
dismiss.
that? All right. Move that we adopt the CIU Prima Facie report as it relates to KG 101-1. Second. All in favor? Anybody opposed or abstained? One abstention. Motion carries. As to 103, I'm sorry, KG 3.
KG 103.
We're on page 32.
Page 31. Page 31, the objections of Goldstone to the candidate of Lieberman, Democratic Assembly, 42nd AD, an H11 violation.
For the candidate Arthur Gregg.
Anybody opposed to the objector? You want to add anything?
No.
No? Move to adopt the CIU Prima Facie report as it relates to KG 103-1. All in favor? Anybody opposed or abstained? Motion carries.
Commissioners, next we have issues regarding spec KG3, Victor Jordan candidate, Valerie Coley objector, spec violates Rule H1, not bound, spec filed unstapled.
Bernard Udell appearing for the candidate.
Notice of appearance?
I think I handed up one before, but I'll...
We gotta do it for every single case.
Same issue is regarding spec 6 and spec 7.
Three objections are Valerie Cooley, Ethel D. Cullen, and Irene Cook to the petitions of Victor Jordan, Democratic candidate for the Assembly, 42nd AD.
Were this were the specs that were originally filed, I believe? Or first filed without pagination?
KG 3, 6, and 7.
This is 6 and 7, please.
Specs filed, not bound.
I had to put clips on them to keep them together.
Do we have appearances from everyone?
No, we haven't gotten anything yet.
Bernard Udell for Victor Jordan. I'm just locating my notice of appearance. I will give it to him in proceeding.
File,
But
please.
I do note that there's a prima facie problem with the service and with the violation of Rule H1 and I think H11 also. And I'd ask that the entire proceedings by the Board of Elections be vacated and dismissed.
On this matter, Your Honor, these specs which were filed early in the process were filed before the pagination cure was made by Mr. Jordan, and as such, they don't correlate to anything, so these specs should probably be dismissed on their face.
All right, move to adopt the CIU Prima Facie report as it relates to KG 3, KG 6, and KG 7. Is there a second?
Yes.
All in favor? Anybody opposed or abstained? Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Ehrlich, for your
Well, the fact is there were like 6 sets of specs filed, and the first 3 have no relationship to anything. It was no pagination.
Believe it or not, Commissioners, we're on the last page of the presentation before.
Make sure you get them now. Make sure you get them now. Make sure you still close them out. Make sure you still close them out.
Yeah, do we have the notices up here?
The next and last issue is spec KG 84 and KG 94. Anthony Tony Herbert, candidate, Bilal Malik, objector, spec cover filed, not securely fastened, violates village 12. Spec cover does not state office and district, no proof of service filed.
Anybody appearing for the candidate, for the objector? There being no appearances?
Mr. Malik?
Bilal Malik, rejected.
Do you have anything to add? Sir?
Mr. Malik, please report back, otherwise we're gonna move along with the calendar.
Yeah, excuse me, I'm behind you. I have behind you. Excuse me? Notice of appearance. I don't have a notice of appearance. I never got a whole lot of notices for my candidates.
No, you have to file the notice of appearance right now.
Form at the front counter.
No, you're talking about speak. Speak, yeah, I have, but I got other issues. For the facial cover.
Now, we're dealing specifically with the fact that the spec cover file doesn't meet the requirements of the board rules, and that it doesn't state an office of district being challenged, and that no proof of service was filed.
Goodbye.
What?
Goodbye, and see, fit in.
Do you agree with the findings? Sir, you agree with the findings? Sir?
No.
Do you have anything to add?
Did you file a proof of service that you served the spec?
Good service filed by somebody else. I contract my stuff out.
Do you have a copy of what was?
I don't have a copy.
Returned?
I would like to have it adjourned so I could get copies and stuff, please.
Mr. Malik, you were given notice in advance that this spec was going to be appearing.
No, I haven't got no notice.
You're here today, you received notice.
No, I'm here today because I look at the county. I know I gotta be here for my own issues. And this issue here, I did not get no notice. The issue of my own, I did not get no notice for some of them.
Can we get
So
a
that's
copy?
why I'm here.
All right, let's address that. Let's see if we have a copy of the letter sent to him.
But I didn't receive it. A whole lot of this I didn't receive. And I got notice. When I got notice, I talked to the Brooklyn clerk. That's how I knew that certain things. But this here, I never got nothing, and I never got something else.
Let Mr. Richards speak now.
Ray provided me a copy of July 24th, 2014 notice that was sent to Mr. Malik at 512 Rockaway Avenue, number 3F, Brooklyn 11212, advising him that the spec cover sheet filed not securely fastened violates Rule 12. Spec cover sheet does not state office and district, and that no proof of service was filed. It advises them that the commissioners will conduct these hearings either on yesterday and today, and possibly tomorrow. You should call the CRU or visit the website for the detailed schedule by borough.
I never received it.
And it was sent by the Board of Elections.
I never received it.
And on July 24th to the address that is filed on the spec cover sheet.
I never received it.
All right, we were sent, but you just didn't receive it.
I didn't
There's a
receive it.
presumption that it was
I didn't
properly
receive
mailed
it.
out and received.
And on July 9th, they were sending out some other stuff on other issues that I got, and I didn't receive one of them. There's a whole lot of issues I got here. I feel that I'm being targeted some kind of way to somebody because I got a lot of issues here. My cover sheet here, I amended the cover sheet. Okay, now my county committee, they sent out something, I never received it, because if I would received it at the same time, if they sent it out at the same time, for me to amend this cover sheet, this one has been amended. I get notice that the stuff went out. My issue is, I'm not receiving some of my mail.
Right, but well, that's an issue for your postman.
The
issue here is something you didn't file.
No, but still,
You
you're gonna
filed
hold
it,
me
you're
burdened.
heavy.
You're holding me burdened because you're mailed it out, and it ain't no proof of service saying that I received it.
It's not certified that mail return receipt requested.
But
You
Mr.
have nothing else
Malik,
to add?
if the proof of service was filed, you had a copy, then you wouldn't be here. There is no proof of service filed with the board.
No, listen, let me explain something to you. The board have, that they're gonna have a main meeting on the 30th. That's what I'm looking at. But in between there, from July 9th, I was missing stuff, and that's why some of my stuff was filed late. And I didn't receive nothing.
There's one issue as to what we sent you. But what we're talking about at this minute is whether or not you filed a proof of service relating to a specific specification of objection. Sir, did you file that with us?
They said, people that I got hired to do it, they said they filed it. I don't know, because I hired
That's the
people.
problem.
That's the problem. You know, it's...
Is there a motion?
I move that we maintain this on the...
Is there a second?
Second. Prima facie list.
All in favor? Anybody opposed or abstaining? Motion carries. Before we conclude...
Oh, we have a second call, that's right. Did we get the information in? Oh, no.
We take a break. We're going to take a 5-minute break. Literally 5 minutes.
That's the CRU Prima Facie calendar. Excuse me, Commissioners.
Yeah, 28, page 20.
So, you want to announce it?
Our second call from the CAU Prima Facie Report calendar is regarding spec KG 41, Independence Party, Alec Krasny candidate, Daniel Sullivan objector. All three proof of services filed, failed to comply with Rule HLF.
Do we have appearances?
Yes, Susan Morrow from Abrams Henstman for the candidate.
Can I have your appearance, sir?
I'm sorry. Yeah, your appearance.
Your appearance?
Yeah, step for the inspector.
What's your name?
Lee McCabe.
Commissioners, these were second calls because there was a request to allow the commissioners to deliberate. I believe you've heard the arguments from both sides.
That's correct, and I believe the commissioners have deliberated. Is there a motion?
After deliberation, I would make a motion to accept this CRU Prima Facie Report.
Is there a second? All in favor? Anybody opposed or abstain?
I'll just make a comment that I understand that the spirit here is to get a certain number of signatures and on the ballot. And we appreciate your participation in the elections process. The elections process, the judicial process, and other processes are filled with rules and technicalities, as many people. The other day we had a news story about a murder conviction getting thrown out because the person's mother didn't have a seat in the courtroom. And there was outrage. So we'll file these under, this one under, will never happen again. And hope that you can stay involved in the process. Unfortunately, as council pointed out, there needs to be pretty strict compliance when you try to knock somebody off the ballot. And taking everything into consideration in addition to the evidence presented in the testimony, we made our decision. Thank you.
Motion carries.
So we don't check signatures, huh? We don't challenge any petitions whatsoever, or
Right,
we don't even
there's
look
no
to see
presumption.
if there's a minimum requirement met.
a
What do we do? No, we don't, unless it's objective.
There is what we call a weight test.
How does that work?
And it's a little bit like the United States Supreme Court's view of pornography. Sort of, you know it when you see it. And if you need to file 1,000 signatures and you file one page, or you file the same page 1,000 times, which we've had, or the equivalent, that does it, or empty pages just to make it feel heavier to try and pass the weight test. Oh yeah. And so, but we generally don't count each petition that's filed
and unless it's egregious, we generally accept it as filed and accept it as good without objection. And as Mr. Richmond points out, that anything that's filed with us has a presumption of validity, and so we don't, unless it's...
Except it's an objection, of course, you know.
Right, and the process is, if there is a problem, it's incumbent upon somebody to complain about it, and that's the objector. And as I had said, the standard for objecting is a lot tougher than it is to try and get on the ballot. And under the circumstances and the totality of circumstances, that's how we came out on this.
So can I just say something? In terms of objecting, I understand that. I understand that the standard should be higher for throwing someone off the ballot. But if we stand here and say that one signature, how do we get on the ballot? Is it one signature, two signatures? What's the sense of having the law if the standard for getting on the ballot doesn't even really exist? I mean, say the standard for throwing someone off. What's the standard for putting someone on? This was a petition. I'm not going to say the number. I've said it too many times. With 6 pages and 39 signatures, and that is you know,
but your
arbitrary.
specifications of objection did not comply with the rules either. So, had we gotten past the service issue, the specification itself is insufficient to be maintained.
The issue is what, that
you have to state the number of, if you look at whatever it is, you have to state the number of signatures that are valid, the number of signatures that are invalid, which gives the total of what, it's Rule H4. So what you said was it's insufficient, but you didn't say by how much.
Sure, on the objection, I understand. What I'm saying is, why wasn't the petition itself thrown out on its face anyway? Why is that?
Because it was apparently substantial enough to pass the weight test as determined by the clerks in the CRU.
And that's arbitrary, capricious, and vague.
No, it's not arbitrary. It's based upon, as I said, a similar standard to that used by the United States Supreme Court on pornography. And as I say, there are plenty of times when people get thrown out prima facie for that. And we've sent people to the DA for potential prosecution for that. But this apparently did not meet that test.
If I may make one observation through the history of this, there have been cases of sheets containing 20 slots on them and 15. We, as you say, we cannot count unless we're objectors. So it becomes very difficult when you get to the parties that have much lower enrollment. And what if that petition had had 20 slots on it? It would have exceeded.
Could have exceeded.
I would have had to count, and I can't count.
And I understand that.
No one here can count. We have that disability.
And you know what, and I understand
Can't count the petition.
And we understand that would be very hard to count petitions, but when we have a hearing, when there's an objection made, and a specific objection made.
Sir, thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Commissioners, we're going to move to the clerk's reports, which I believe Brooklyn has provided. I think you can but Commissioners, we've had a request, and Commissioner Shimoon agreed to call out of order in order to accommodate both sides, and they're consented. We'll begin with spec number 88, Republican Party of Kings County, in the matter of the objections by Pat Minicello to the petition of Stamatis
Lilikakis.
Can you say that again?
Stamatis Lilikakis.
Stamatis Lilikakis.
My Cretan is a little rusty, but I think that.
For member of the Assembly 46th District. Clerk's report, 844 signatures submitted, 268 signatures invalid, 576 valid, 500 are required to qualify for the ballot. Appearances, please.
Aaron D. Maslow for the chapter, along with Lucretia Regina Potter. She also put in a notice of appeal.
Peter Cipriano for the candidate. And I also have the gentleman with me, one of the subscribing witnesses whose testimony may be pertinent today, and he has a timing issue at home, which I want to thank all the commissioners for accommodating us.
All right, so then let's not waste time.
Okay,
Clerk
so-
report, so the candidate is on. Mr.
Okay,
Presley, have any objection?
yes. Ms. Lucretia Regina Potter submitted yesterday, 24 hours in advance, a list of exceptions to the clerk's report. To the candidate himself by fax, as well as to the Brooklyn Board of Elections. I don't know if those were taken into account, but one of them involves a legal issue, which I'd like to bring to you. I would also object to the person that the candidate is referring to because no notice was given to us. You've always held in the past that if there are exceptions to the clerk's report, I assume he's accepting to signatures being disqualified. He did not notify the objector of any exceptions, nor did he present them to the Board of Elections.
Well, that's the question. Both sides are supposed to submit the exception report to the commissioners at this time.
Today.
Today.
That was my understanding.
We submitted it in advance. We submitted it
Well, he still has
yesterday.
the opportunity to do that
More
today.
power to you, Mr. Maslow.
Yeah, but you didn't let this staff know.
But the exceptions are reviewed by both sides, as you know. So that
Well, a copy was given to the other side.
I understand, but we send you out with representatives from both camps to review those exceptions.
Ms. Potter was willing to sit down with the clerks and,
Why-
I mean, she has a copy here too, you know, even though we did it yesterday. But can I raise the legal issue?
Yes, of
Thank you. Okay, there was an objection to pages were specced up where there was no signature on a witness statement. Okay, so what was a signature on a statement that's supposed to be used by a notary public or a commissioner of deeds. I call it an attestation statement. The case law is clear that the title of the officer who administers the oath is supposed to be specified, be it a notary public or commissioner of deeds. In fact, what Ms. Regina Potter gave in to the board yesterday included copies of those cases, and they are from both the 4th Department and the 2nd Department. I mean, I have copies here too, but they're attached to the list of exceptions. For instance, in Hunter versus Contagny, in the 4th Department.
Do you have copies for the
May I have a copy, please?
It was actually faxed to you? It was faxed to you. You gave a fax number.
To my knowledge, we never received a fax. So I
We
don't know if
even
you
have the
proof of
fax cover sheet.
but-
We have the fax.
Do you have a copy now for him?
Yeah, if you could just furnish me with one now.
You said it was sent to the candidate, it was sent to...
He's the contact. The candidate is the contact person, and it was sent to the contact person's fax number.
It wasn't sent to him, it was sent to his candidate. I understand
It's
what you
well,
did,
he
but
listed that as
that's
the
why you
contact
need to
person.
get a
Okay,
copy.
but anyway,
And you should get a copy.
so now there's a copy of these court cases that's attached to that, if you'd like to take a look at them. They say the title has to be there. In fact, I just want to tell you, there's case law that says all you need is, if you have the title, you don't need the other stuff. But you do have to have the title. There's another case that says, if it merely says notary public, that's okay. The identification of the notary by title alone is sufficient. And that's McKay versus Cochran.
What was on the subscribing witness statement?
Well, actually, it's an attestation statement.
I haven't seen, do you have a petition? Do you know what the?
Yes.
Mr.
Can we get it? Can we see it?
Danny, could the petition be brought up for the commissioners, please?
I mean, these are just the legal issues. The others were other errors that the objector claims were made and are listed in there. I mean, if you want to mention just a couple of the errors? Just a couple of them? Like,
Commissioners, if an exception report has been submitted, then normally we would send it out to be worked. We don't discuss it in front of the commission.
So are you saying because they omitted the word notary, however, had their notary license number, the qualification of the county, and the expiration date, that we should not accept that?
correct, because Number one, the license is incorrect, but we don't even know that's a
License is
notary
not
license.
incorrect. The license is not incorrect.
No,
I have New York State proof of this individual's license number being accurate.
One, it doesn't matter. He's gotta say his capacity. Underneath the line, it says name and title of the person administering the oath.
Well, the purpose for that is to properly identify who is the person signing. So with the license number, you would get that.
As Commissioner Shamoon aptly observed earlier, the election law is full of technicalities. One of the technicalities is you have to specify what the title is.
Well, based on the case, this issue is coming.
Can I just say something? This is, now, not known, but a commission of deeds and a notary. The ID numbers are completely different, so you know this is a notary, not a commission of deeds. Am I correct?
Yeah, Commissioner.
I could also submit to the commissioners.
Please, the case was on, including the Appellate Division, Second Department in Fuentes versus Lopez. The key element is that if the petition lacked any information which would identify him in that case as a commissioner of deeds qualified to administer the oath, then the signatures fail. But here, Commissioner, and we discussed this with the Brooklyn staff, there was all the information there in terms of the license registration number, the qualification of which county he's qualified, he or she is qualified in, and the expiration date. And you'll be able to determine clearly whether it is a notary public or a commissioner of deeds, as Commissioner Michelle indicated, because it's a different series of numbers. It's not identical, so you can get confused. The notaries have
May I submit to the commissioners
You have
proof of this individual?
The proof of the number.
Yeah, it's proof of the
Let's
number,
see if the
and
number matches exactly digit for
it does
digit.
indeed match digit for digit, letter for letter, the individual on the petition.
Let the record reflect this is an excerpt from the Department of State Division of Licensing Services.
Okay, so I'm informed that it does not match exactly on volume 792, pages 3, 4, and 5. Exactly digit by digit.
3, 4, and 5. We want to hold that.
Commissioners, for the record, I don't see that at all. I see a consistent number here.
Can I just ask, could someone read me, because I didn't see this document, could someone read me the license number on what he provided the board?
The license number for the notary, Mr. Ross, is 01, G as in George, O as in Oscar, 6303987.
That is not what is on this petition sheet that I have. I have 0603987.
That's not a 6 and a 0. That's a G and an O, and I don't believe we're handwriting experts here.
01G0.
Missing the 3.
That's a G, not a 6, and that's an O, not a 0.
Oh, okay, O, 603987. It's right in here. 3 is missing. Okay, so, there's technical requirements, and he did not put what his title was. It's off. It doesn't match. But anyway, I'm informed that there are the rest of these exceptions.
There is case law for Bay v. Santoyani, which would suggest that, this is sufficient, I think, as the commissioner pointed out. There is the individual's name, his qualification county, his ID number, his expiration. And in that case, the
courts have held as to content, you need strict compliance. As to content. Okay? You also have to put down what you are. But anyway, there's more exceptions. I see Ms. Rudiano is flipping through them. And so Mr. Richmond is saying that when you file the exceptions, then the two sides go with the clerk. Is that it?
Sir, do you have any exceptions?
I do, in fact.
You have a list.
As required by the rules.
I have everything copiously noted here. So I have identified here, the exact pages, I could tell you it's not that many, and they're all pertaining to the same issue.
Those are Post-it notes.
That doesn't satisfy.
Rule I-2 requires that if you have an exception, you have to submit it, and let me get the exact rule.
The list that you have, Mr. Objector, as to the exception, how many's on that list?
How many signatures does it affect?
How many, yes,
Is it
you're accepting to how many?
66?
Yeah, more than 66.
What's the number?
At least over 120.
Commissioners, but Jay,
With the notary on it? With the notary?
Yes.
Yeah, but assuming that if it was only the 3 pages that had the missing 3 on it, and if we gave credit to all of the other...
That would not be a sufficient number to remove
7 pages?
to remove the candidate from the ballot.
I just
No.
mentioned only 3 with
Okay, I
the,
don't know.
there were 7 pages altogether.
7 pages that notary took, or 7 pages Commissioner D?
It's the pages with the number 3 on the notary
If-
that's missing. How many pages
Does
are
it
there?
affect?
I've seen 3 pages on
7,
that.
she says
There's
7.
7. How many signatures on the 7 pages? 10 on a page?
9 on a page.
9 on a page.
I would still argue that that's not his number, and
But,
he
no, I'm just asking,
Yeah, okay.
I'm not
Yeah,
arguing
yeah.
the rest, I'm just
Yeah,
asking.
yeah, right.
On that issue
Right.
of the notary
Right.
missing a number 3.
Right.
There is, right?
Right.
9 full, 7 pages, so now it's 7 pages, how many signatures are on each page? 9, maximum of 9, right?
Correct.
Huh? Math guy. 63, okay, so there's 63 signatures.
So that's still not...
That's
So
still-
you still need to go through...
You still have to go through.
Can they send them? Can they do it now?
Yeah. Could we send them out with the clerk?
but Commissioners, your rules require to present to the Commissioners a list of exceptions which identifies with specificity each ruling by the clerk which is claimed to be erroneous.
I understand that.
So
That's
we're only
what-
working,
There's only one side of it.
right, we're only working the exception report of the objected.
Because you don't have it.
Commissioners, I apologize. I misunderstood. From the wording in the rules, are encouraged to present. I really only have one exception. And the gentleman to my right has really taken a lot out of his day, and he's made a lot of accommodation to be here today. I would ask that you please hear what he has to say.
No, we're not gonna hear. What's the problem?
The problem is very simple. There, for a total of 89 signatures were ruled invalid due to the fact that the subscribing witness, is the gentleman to my right, used an incorrect address. His address was altered by the United States Postal Service during the petitioning process, and he was notified at such a late date that he was unaware of the fact that he had a different address on file with the board.
Same place, and
Changed
the
it.
postal address
Oh, yeah,
changed?
he has a notice of appearance.
I have a notice of appearance. My name is Joseph A. Kovac.
And who are you appearing for?
Excuse me?
Who are you appearing for?
I'm appearing on behalf of Stamatis Likakakis, who I obtained signatures for. What happened was, I resided at 264 Cromwell Avenue, Staten Island, New York, up until January. I moved, that's my parents' house, I got divorced, I got my own place. I now reside at 112 Reed Avenue in Staten Island. All the districts are the same except for the ED. Same Senate district, same congressional district, everything is the same. I never changed my voter registration form with the Board of Elections. It was an oversight, I didn't think about it, quite honestly. I have a full-time job, I have 3 daughters that I'm late picking up for today, which is my visitation day today, to see them. And I'm here because I feel that even though that the signatures were thrown out, because the board changed my registration because they were notified by the post office on May 28th, I was never notified till about June 20th. that my change of address went through by the board.
Mr. Kovac just said he moved, and now he listed his old address after he moved. He listed his old address after he moved. He didn't reside there. Those sheets were properly invalidated.
By an address where I was registered to vote. and
He was
where I-
registered, but he just said he didn't live there. He moved out in January. He
As
put down
to
an
his
address he didn't live
knowledge,
at.
his address on file with the Board of Elections had never been altered, and in fact, it hadn't been altered until May the 28th by the Postal Service. Yeah,
So it was, you moved in January,
Yes,
right, and you never changed
Yes.
your address?
I never changed my address with the
When you
board.
filled out the petition, it says that I reside at.
And I-
So,
and I listed my
it was a
parents'
s-
address.
You separated from your spouse or something?
Yeah, I got divorced.
Right,
Yeah, uh-huh.
and so
And,
it's less than a year that you...
yes.
yes, yes.
And by the way, he filled out other witness statements with his correct address.
That was after I was notified by the Board of Elections that the board changed my address. And that's the reason why this
What,
was.
the board changed your address because you notified them?
No.
No, because I notified the post office. I
So
did.
the only
and-
ones that we invalidated are witness statements that contained your parents' address and
Yes.
not the others.
And
Where he no
up
longer
until.
resided.
We've got that, Mr.
Do your parents still reside there?
My parents still reside there. My parents have resided there for
Do
14
you
years.
still get mail there?
I still get mail there. I still get my cell phone bill.
One of the main...
My Easy Pass is still there. You know.
Mayor, the statute prescribes in the witness statement that I now, they use the word now, reside at residence address. It goes on under it, has to be written, I understand that the statement will be accepted for all purposes as the equivalent of an affidavit, and if it contains a material false statement or subject to the same penalties. We traditionally require that people state their current address, and if it doesn't match with the petition record or the board's records, if it was invalid and saying the person is not registered or not enrolled, they would come in and say, we moved and we accepted it. In this case, I think it's reversed, but the question is, was there a material false statement made on the petition?
I wasn't trying to deceive anyone.
Residency is a ticklish question. And people can reside in more than one place.
Mhm.
There's a whole section in the election law.
In any event, there was no written notice of this exception to the
Excuse me,
rules.
Mr. Maslow, in the middle of the park. There's a small section in the election law that I see that talks about residency and domicile, one versus the other. If I recall correctly, it starts out by kind of offering the fact that you can have, as far as voter registration goes, you can have different addresses, live at one, vote at the other. The board isn't going to concern itself with which one is which. Whether this extends to the witness statement, maybe not matter. That I think to be true. I'd like that to be fleshed out.
But I would just also say that there was no notice given of any exception to Mr. Kovac's.
Yeah, but you don't get notice, you get notice now.
Well, they're supposed to
traditional.
hand in, they didn't hand in. But all right, we have these others. How about it be sent back to be like we've done in the past? And then if you can give us,
All right, let's
see what
assign
they come
a
up
group
with.
to address the exceptions by the objected.
Both sides are here, Ms. Potter's
Well,
here.
we've already
I-
heard.
We heard your statement, you can go.
I can go, right?
Yes,
You
thank
can
you,
go.
thank you for.
With each candidate or their representative, go with the team.
Go with the team.
But will the commissioners consider the issue that they just heard?
Yes, you'll consider.
Oh, okay. So that'll be decisional. I mean, I could provide you with a list of exceptions right now if you'd like. I mean, that's an easily remedied, it's the, if you'd like, I mean, if I could highlight it for you. I do have the pages, which I never got a chance to tell you.
Well, you tell the clerks who are assigned.
Yeah?
You have a list,
Yeah.
I have a,
specifically paged.
yes.
You have a copy for him and a copy for the staff that's working it? Because we're only working those lists, we're not working your post-its.
Oh, sure. No, I could write a list if that'll suffice.
No, you have to come ready with the list here. That's the thing.
Yeah.
We don't have that.
Right.
So there's nothing we do with that. We're just gonna work off his list at this.
So, but you will consider the issue you just heard?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
No, that's...
yes.
spec number, King spec 10-1, a subscribing witness didn't carry the petition. Appearances, please hand in your...
What's the spec number, Steve?
Number 10-1.
Rupert Barrett for President Brown.
Bernard Alter for the candidate Edwards.
Commissioners also have specific specs.
Exception?
Yes.
How many do we have?
I would think maybe...
I wouldn't take a look. I still wouldn't take a look. No. I would ask.
No, because well, if you allow for the pages of which I can consider that with the, no, I'm talking about numbers in terms of...
No, I'm asking, you said you have an exception report, correct?
Right.
How many exceptions do you have on your list?
How many signatures are you looking for?
Would not guess.
Would not guess.
Of the valid ones that the board moved out. Close to about 178.
100 and what?
70 or 80.
Wait, hold on a minute. Most of those involve that so-called the witness he claims did not take the signatures. That's not a ruling for the board to handle.
Yeah, excluding what was referred to the board, that there was an objection made that the witness didn't carry a petition, how many of the other clerk's rulings are you appealing?
Quickly, 1 second. Can you see 1 second? I would say about 165, 7.
I know, listen,
I didn't count them. I didn't count them because some of them include pages. Some refer to pages in which for instance, the date which the witness carried precedes the signature. So that's one argument. But it's 10 signatures on there.
You understand we're not going to rule on that issue with
That's
respect
for
to
the court.
witnesses carrying
No, but on the dates, you're not going to talk about in terms of the exception.
No, he's arguing that the dates were backdated and stuff like that. He's not arguing there's something wrong with it.
On Monday and it was signed on Wednesday, that's a problem. So
That's not what the rule, that's not what the exception is. He's saying that we've committed a fraud by backdating stuff. That's what he's arguing. That's not for the board to hear.
No, there are two sets. There are two.
Why don't you tell us what you're saying, because obviously I don't know.
The first group is regards to where I believe it's clearly evident that let's separate and call the carrier was not the witness. Usually the witness is the carrier.
I understand, well, we can't deal with that, so what's the next one?
Though the ones I was referring to is that in terms of the numbers, where there's a page where the witness date precedes the signature dates.
Which is what I think I just said.
The ones that do not have any argument, those ones you're not challenging?
No, I'm challenging.
What's the argument?
Just blank.
Well, the argument is exactly next to it. It would be the same thing.
But again, the clerks have already ruled on these objections. They're not going to, second time. What was wrong? Why was that ruling wrong?
All right. Because, for instance, they would say out of district.
Now I'm looking at the one that says printed. They did not. You have no argument against that printed signature. That was the objection on the specification. The clerk's ruling was as stated or not as stated. What are you trying to change? What was the error that they made? If it's a judgment call, that's not enough. What's the objection?
Well, the reason I didn't state all the objections is because, for example, I'm trying to make the point why everything is not stated that way is because, for example, they would say, one, the out of district. The out of district says no comment there. Sometimes there's the address, which is out of district, sometimes it's not. And it's clearly out of district, and 835.
Have you looked at the work of the clerks, see which objection they circled?
Yes, I have.
So in the case where there's nothing stated, the first one you have page 5, line 6, the objection was printed, there's no argument against it. What's your claim? That the clerks made the wrong judgments?
But you agree with
But the clerks already did their ruling. You gotta give us evidence to show what's wrong with the clerk's ruling.
Where's the error?
But on the page also, you would have where it says out of district, and some of them I didn't put anything next to it because it's clearly out of district. Sometimes the clerks would
Then
say.
you're not contesting it then, if there's nothing next to it.
I am contesting it.
Are you saying the clerk's made an error?
Yes.
Word?
But then you should say what the error is.
He hasn't
The
done
address
that.
is out of district.
He hasn't done none of
I
that.
put in the objection, I say it's still out of
That
district.
was the original objection. That was the original objection.
Commissioner.
They ruled on.
Sometimes 835 Herkimer, out of district as specified. Down 835 Herkimer, out of district not as specified. So the out of district, that's what would happen. So sometimes yes, sometimes they say no. So I didn't.
But you should have said that clerk made error.
In line number 6, we ruled 835 Herkimer not as specified, and it should have been as specified, because it's in the district. So.
It's out of district, out of district.
But the point is, he hasn't set forth where the clerk's errors are in error. He's just setting forth all his objections all over again without any specificity.
No, I didn't.
No, you did not, sir. I've seen your work, and it's all screwed up, okay? And all you're doing is wasting time here.
Well, that's.
No, I'm telling you, he's got nothing in there. I mean, you know, have you heard?
So is 835 Herkimer in the district?
It's out of the district, out of district. But sometimes they would mark it in district as not as specified. So sometimes I put the dates were put on, sometimes it wasn't. We made 2,300 objections, 2,323. The board agreed with over 1,700. We didn't just, as I believe others do, just put everything down. We went through every one line by line by line. So it's not frivolous.
The board's rules
out of 2,300, the board agreed with 1,700, and I'm telling you, there's a lot more.
The board's rules are very specific. He's got to specify where the clerks are in error, and he hasn't done that. All he's done is submit his objections all over again. The clerks have made rulings. The rules are very specific. You've got to say what the errors are and how the clerk made a mistake, and he hasn't done that. And that's what the clerk and that's what the council's been saying. And I think the specification.
My argument to the commission is that if I did not put additional arguments, then my argument is that, for instance, on line 36, page 36, line 10, out of district, I didn't put, again, some other explanation. It's because, in my mind, the argument is out of district. Sometimes I would list, it would be listed.
What happens if you're out there and you have a representative in the room with you? Now we're guessing what it is that you're objecting to.
I will be there.
Well, I'm just giving you my hypothetical. You're supposed to provide us the information so we can.
Sorry, my signature does not match. The objection was it was a printed signature. The clerk ruled on the objection, and now he's saying that he disagrees with the clerk's findings.
But does this exception report attach evidence showing where we made an error?
No.
So on that example where he says signature does not match, I'm assuming he's found, right, or did not find his signature and showing us where we made the error.
Signature was found.
Did you attach something showing us where we made the error?
No, I did not.
That's the problem.
So you're basically asking us to rework everything that they already did, correct?
Sometimes on the clerk's report, when it was illegible or something, they would put the number next to the.
Right, they would put the board identification number if they found it.
Right. And many times the ones we're dealing with, nothing was put there.
But did you put the voter identification number there so we could find it? That's the problem.
No, I did not put the voter identification.
That's the problem.
Because sometimes, well, if the signature doesn't match, the voter would be there, but the signature doesn't match.
Right, but it's incumbent upon you to come here ready with the information showing us how we made the mistake.
Move the clerk's report.
All in favor? Anybody opposed or abstain? Motion carries.
So the candidate remains on the ballot, am I correct?
Clerk's report is adopted, candidate will appear on the primary ballot. Brooklyn amended spec report number 17. The name of the objector was corrected. Democratic Party, Kings County, objections by Antone Frederick. The petition of Leon B. Miles, State Senator, 19th Senate District. Clerk's report, 1286 signatures submitted, 369 invalid, 917 valid, 1,000 required. Here is this. Hello. Leon Miles, I have appearance.
Do you have an Inception report?
Yes, I do. To the clerk. Yes, I do.
You have attachments in the backup for it, and specifically?
Yes, I do.
How many do you have?
I brought one for myself. I didn't know, I mean.
No, how many signatures?
Oh, it's more than 100. With the clerk's report, if you look at sheet 68, which I submitted, on the clerk's report, they state that none of these voters are registered. Attached to that, you will see that I have an image of my petition where their voter ID, where 5 voters are identified. Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay. So the specifications of objection against you were dismissed for failing to file proof of service. Right, so we'll dismiss.
You're okay. You don't have to stand here.
Move to dismiss this clerk's report as moved.
All right.
You're on
the ballot. Sir, thank you for doing a good list. Thank you for doing a list in the proper format.
All in favor? Anybody opposed or abstaining? The motion carries.
All right, thank you.
Sorry, Commissioner, Commissioner, the next specification of objection, number 40 against the petition of Demetrius Lawrence. Mr. Lawrence is already off the ballot, Prima Facie. You may want to move.
Right, there being no appearances, move to dismiss the clerk's report as moved. Is there a second? All in favor? Anybody abstain or object? Motion carries.
This is spec 41-1, Daniel Slater against Brooke Crafty. That spec has been dismissed for failing to comply with the board rules. So commissioners, a motion move to dismiss this.
No, dismiss. All right, a motion to dismiss the clerk's report as moved has been made. Is there a second? All in favor? Anybody opposed or abstain? Motion carries.
Spec 71, the objections by Rona Taylor to the petition of Sharon Parks for judge of the civil court, 6th District. Clerk's reports, 8,162 signatures submitted, 8,162 invalid, 1,500 required. Objective notes that KG 14, 15, volume 1536 is not claimed on the cover sheet and should not be counted. The clerk found that as stated. Objector claims omission of, quote, or herself, the witness statement invalidates all the signatures in those volumes set forth therein, over 5,000 signatures as stated. An objector claims in one volume 1437 and 1536, the column for the county is pre-printed Brooklyn, New York, which is not a county, invalidating 1,273 signatures as stated. Appearances?
Aaron Maslow for the objectors. I'd like to hand up a compilation of court cases.
I got better ones than that. I got the election ball here. I'm handing up the election ball. Right here. One page. I'll hand 2 pages up. Oh, Bernard Walter, attorney for the candidate.
Mr. Alderman, other officers, you go first, since right now you have 0 valid signatures on the clerk's report.
This objection is raised on the witness statement. Statute was amended a year or 2 ago to say himself or herself.
It was amended about 9 years ago.
Whatever it is. Right now, this petition has himself without the herself. Now, let me just say something about this. We're talking about substantial compliance to put a candidate on the ballot. The word, as I heard Commissioner Humane say up to a number of times, is a small liberal. We're talking about putting somebody on the ballot. Now, let me talk about the election law for a minute. 6132 says the form shall be substantially the same, not exactly the same. And if you look at Section 22 of the General Construction Law, which I've handed up, along with it says, and I'm going to quote it. It says here, whenever words of the masculine or feminine gender appear in any law, rule, or regulation, unless the sense of the sentence indicates otherwise, they shall be deemed to refer to both male and female sexes. Persons. The construction shall apply to gender indicative suffixes or prefixes, as well as gender indicative words. Whenever the reference is to a corporation, and it continues on, the term shall be neuter and gender. Now let me talk to you about 1-104 subdivision 14 of the election law, which says, words of the masculine gender include the feminine, except where the provision clearly applies to only one sex. That form is 100% correct. If you say, he said,
She said the form is gender neutral. We're talking about taking a candidate off the ballot who has 5,000 good signatures because the word herself is missing. And I submit this is an issue of putting a candidate on the ballot in which this word liberal is to be used, liberal construction. And I think this is ridiculous. The argument is ridiculous because the statute makes the statutes that come up here make these terms gender neutral. It's just an attempt by the objector to use a very technical, arcane way of throwing a candidate off the ballot. And I don't think this is correct. It's directly against New York election law as well as the general construction law. I've handed up copies of those laws. If you want more copies, I'll be happy to supply them. Here's an extra.
We shared it with the committee.
Okay. Secondly, on the Brooklyn and the Kings objection, the Court of Appeals has held on numerous occasions that Brooklyn and Kings stand for the same land mass. There's no confusion here. In fact, on the issue of the sex, there's no confusion. The form is exactly correct, except the words or herself is missing. The form is correct. It's got the exact language in there, except the words or herself. And if you look at the statutes, the word himself could be or herself. Now, let me give you a nice example about this. Suppose those voters were all he's. Then now they counted because they're all he's. Suppose they're she's. The she says it's a he said. That's what the statute says. The sexes are interchangeable by statute. You got the point? Okay.
Okay, first I'm going to discuss the statutes that he is citing. And I just want to say so that it's clear. There were 5 volumes listed on the cover sheet. The last volume is the one that had Brooklyn, New York as the county. The clerks worked that volume up, and even if you give him back all the signatures where the only objection was Brooklyn, New York, there's still not enough signatures in that volume based on line-by-line objections to out-of-district, not registered, etc. You can ask the clerks how they worked it up, but there's not enough, there are not 1,500 valid signatures in the last volume, even if you put aside.
Why are we limited to the last volume?
Because there were 4 volumes that omitted the words or herself.
Okay.
That's why. So if you knock out those four volumes.
That's a big assumption.
Yeah, I'm saying then.
A huge assumption, if I could say that again. Sorry.
I didn't interrupt you.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I think, okay, never mind. I'll keep my mouth shut.
So the 5th doesn't have 1,500. Now I want to address the statutes that he mentioned. First of all, it says, words of the masculine and feminine appearing in any law, unless the sense of the sentence indicates otherwise. The sentence does indicate otherwise. The sentence indicates that you need both. So it's not like that the law just says or herself and was saying you needed to put in or himself or vice versa. The statute itself indicates that it's intended that you have to put both in there. So therefore, the section he cited doesn't apply. And the same thing applies to the 1104.14. It says it includes it except where the provision clearly applies only to one sex. The provision doesn't clearly apply only to one sex because it lists both.
Yeah, but
Now,
Mr. Maslow, wouldn't you just assume that what that's referring to in the election law would be the case of the Brooklyn people where you need to say male or female in the position that the people are running for? And that's the or, as opposed to him or her in a recitation?
no, this is different. We're talking about, in my cases that I've given you, the courts, including the Court of Appeals, have said, while substantial compliance is acceptable as to details of form, and I underlined this on page 5 of my submission, it says strict compliance, there must be strict compliance with statutory commands as to matter of prescribed content. This is content. It was prescribed by the state legislature in their infinite wisdom to specifically make a witness identify and state in the witness statement that they're identifying himself and herself.
It say and, it says or, content.
Okay, Mr. Maslow, I'm not going to ask you the question of what if the person is transgender, and how does that affect?
It's one unified sentence saying each of the individuals etc., identified himself or herself. Every other case involving the contents of witness statements inside the witness statement, the courts, when it was omitted, left it out. They left out, if you left out on the number of signatures, you leave out the date, you leave out on the dates above indicated, okay? The cases clearly say strict compliance as to content. And, my last words, the statute says the State Board of Elections shall prescribe a sample form. They did. The sample form tracks the statutory language. That sample form, available for people to follow, says himself or herself. You can't just take it on yourself to cut out words from a witness statement. Okay? If the legislature says it's going to be presumptively valid, if you have our words that we require, then you have to put in all the words that the legislature requires.
Sure, Mr. Maslow, that doesn't deal with the specific things like the name of the witness and his address and the number of signatures? Do any of the cases that you're citing to deal with leaving out language such as or herself?
The word, there's no cases on the words or herself. The case law does say strict compliance on the witness statement.
Commissioners, most of the cases cited by Mr. Mazzo predate the statute modification to 96, which imposed a requirement that the form shall be substantially in the form. While the state board doesn't prescribe a form which is automatically deemed valid, the operative language is 6.132 that they shall be substantially in the form. And our review of the statute is, at least with respect to the election law, Mr. Walters correctly quoted section 1-104, subdivision 14. In addition, there have been cases, and again, when we get to the witness statement and the others, as well as those signers, where that there has to be substantial compliance in setting forth the information, so that if you wrote Brooklyn, New York in your witness statement with your address, and you had the incorrect or omitted the county below, it's not fatal to it. It's getting substantial compliance. Brooklyn is the same coterminous jurisdiction as Kings County for two different purposes. One is the borough of the city, one is the county. But for all other purposes, including who funds the county offices, it's been a little taxes.
Oh, yeah.
All taxes.
In terms of the Election Reform Act,
And then the other part is that the other cases that they're citing, I really don't think apply. Because it says, for example, he cites in the last case being the 2012 case, the appellate division. For example, the failure to accurately identify a city's assigned as town, city, or county in the city of New York will invalidate the signature. Here it's identified, Brooklyn. The heading says county, but he's trying to put form over substance. There's no, if you are looking to seek to serve a subpoena on that witness, on that subscribing signatory or anyone else, you have the address and you know where it is, whether it says Kings County or Brooklyn, New York. I think you're looking at the language, and given the language that the Pataki amendments did, and the memo in support to liberalize the form, to enable people to qualify for the ballot, it's my opinion, and please be consulting with Mr. Savino, that I think the Brooklyn clerks made errors in at least number 2 and 3 in finding them as stated. And if you go on number 2, that's 5,106 signatures, which is more than enough to qualify for the ballot.
I just want to say the appellate division has actually said that the long-standing requirement of strict compliance with the mandates of election law is unaffected by the provisions of Election Reform Act 1992. They're referring to the content of designating. They've actually, the appellate division, in the year 2000, in the 3rd Department, Dunley versus New York State Board of Elections, and I have it on page 24 of your list of cases. So the appellate division has said that the Election Law Reform Act does not affect the contents of
I just have a question as to objector notes that King's 1401536 is not claimed on the cover sheet. Is that correct?
We agree on that. We haven't sought, that's a
So I would move that.
We're talking about, Commissioner, just make it with, I'm referring to the 96 Act, not the 96.
I understand.
This was in 2000.
I would move that we amend the clerk's report to change item 2 and 3 as not as specified, and that we direct the clerks to change the number of valid signatures accordingly, and that when this is amended, that it be presented to us for final approval.
That's just got.
Is there a second? All in
Well, hold
favor?
on. Chief, why don't you?
We worked off the objections.
Commissioner, there has to be line-by-line objections as well, that are not reflected on the sheet.
Oh.
Well, they are reflected on the report.
They are.
They worked it up. They worked it up.
We've got.
But if you look at this 1,353 are out, and on the witness statement, how many of these, so the 6707, the surviving witness not qualified, that's all because of himself or herself?
Yes.
No, there were also objections to, I believe, not registered.
Now, looking at the actual work of the clerk's report.
I know, but they were also not registered.
Let him finish.
When I looked at the circles,
Not registered, there's only 25 witness statement signatures are lost. The clerks acted that, so could the clerks revise this quickly and have it reported back before the end of the hearing today?
Yeah. and
it's a
giving-
question of
giving-
counting
giving-
the circles.
And giving credence to the line-by-line objections that the clerks found where the signatures are invalid.
Have you, can I ask you one question? Have you moved the clerk, have you moved to this, as the board voted on your motion, Mr.
Not yet, because we're amending the motion, because I spoke too soon. There are apparently issues that the clerks found with a number of the signatures, and those should be, unless we made errors, those should be, those signatures should be invalidated, that where the clerks found that there were problems with those signatures. But I think it's the general feeling of the commissioners, as judged by head nodding, that that they agreed with me that items 2 and 3 should not be as specified, and that we should amend the report to reinstate those signatures and calculate those 1350 and subtract from that 1353, which 1353 would seem to have been other valid objections, and then that the clerk's report be amended to reflect the difference between 8162 and 1350 and right, and the other than the other subscribing witness statements, other than the ones that are affected by 2 and 3. And that we could then vote on the amended clerk's report.
Yeah. The motion is made by Commissioner Romaine, is there a second? All in favor? Aye.
So specs 2 and, so let me ask, can I
Motion
ask?
carries.
So in other words, are they gonna like indicate on B total invalid signatures? And that they're gonna deduct that from the 8162
They're
and come
going to
back?
work back, they're going to revise the clerk's report to reflect the findings that the RTBs number 2 and 3 are found not as stated. So the specific line-by-line objection that the clerks did found to be valid will be reflected in the clerk's report.
And they're gonna put the number of invalid too.
Correct. And then there will be a second call pursuant to the commission as instructed by the commission. Okay? Wait, before we go any further, Commissioner, spec 72 is identical. So would that same motion apply to spec 72?
Yes, please amend the motion.
Second it. All in favor? Anybody opposed or abstaining? Motion carries.
Second call for spec 71 and 72 together. Spec number 687, Working Families Party, objection of Elvin Santiago and Elvira Vargas, the petitions of Debbie Medina, the State Senate, 18th District. Clerk's report, 49 signatures submitted, 13 invalid, 36 valid, 44 required. Any appearances?
For the candidate, Alexander Rabb, A. Radner, of the city of New York, New York.
Quiet.
I'm handing up exceptions that are going to be distributed to the board.
Susan Morrow for the objector. Object to what?
Does the objector have any exceptions to the clerk's report?
No.
Commissioners, 10 signatures were, after the clerk's report, the petition is down 8 signatures. 10 signatures were ruled off as SAP signed another petition. The specific language provided by the objector to explain the SAP objection is, signed another petition for the same office designating another candidate, petitions to run for this office on the Working Families Party line. And if the signers signed for a candidate who's running on another line, the objections do not indicate the volume number of any other candidate's petitions.
Do you have the exception for,
I'll just pass them around.
They set forth in the volume number, sheet number, line numbers.
just assign this to the staff?
Do we have another set of team to go out?
Do the objectives have a exception report?
No.
No? Exception list? No?
So,
All right.
have you been given a copy of this?
Yes.
Okay, second call, Mr. Commissioner?
Yes, and have a team working, please. Steve, before you go next, please. Commissioner, when you do a subcommittee, we have 6 without us.
Just check on that. Just check. Only if you fell below that. Respect number 90, Kings County Republican Party, in the matter of the, I'm going to call 90 and 91, Commissioners. It's both in the matter of the objections by Sharon Fuchs in the petition of call of a member of the Assembly's 48th Assembly District. Both reports show that the clerks found 948 signatures submitted, 156 invalid, 792 valid, 468 are required to appear on the ballot. Appearances?
Alexander Avalanche from Connie Glazer for Carl Caller.
Anybody here for the objective? Is there anything you want to add?
No, sir.
Move the clerk's report?
Second.
All in favor? Anybody opposed or abstained? Motion carries.
Clerk's reports and specs 90 and 91 are adopted. The candidate will appear on the ballot. Spec number 95-1, Kings County Democratic Party, in the matter of the objection by... So it's together, we call them together, the 90 and 91, they're identical, same candidates, same objectives. Objection, specification number 95, Democratic Party, Kings County. Objections by Lucina Clark to the petition of Del Smitherman for New York State Senate 19th District. Clerk's report, 2,983 signatures submitted, 1,366 invalid, 1,617 valid, 1,000 required. Referred to board. The objective complaint, subscribing witness Patrick S. Conway, a Republican, failed to use the required oath form. Mr. Conway's Commissioner of Deeds information is stamped on the bottom of the sheet. No proper oath and formats, they cite 6132.3 of the election law, is set forth. This applies to volume 889, sheet 70, 61, 91, and volume 891, sheet 19. A total of 33 signatures on these pages are already invalid, as a subscribing witness is not enrolled. Appearances.
For the candidate, Alexander Rabb, New York.
Bernard Alter for the objector.
Mr. Alter, do you have an exception report?
No, I don't. We're in court.
Commissioner, the candidate is seeking to restore approximately 11 pages that where the witness was ruled off, and 33 further signatures that the board ruled off. The bulk of them were ruled wrong address, not enrolled, and we have a team here with this voter ID numbers that can help the staff to find those voters.
What would be the need? What would be the need to do this since he's on the ballot already? It's a useless exercise, just wasting time.
As Mr. Alter noted, we're in court tomorrow on an invalidate, and we want to keep as many signatures as we can.
All right, because an exception report was provided to us in proper form, we'll have a team working.
Thank you.
Okay.
Second call.
Are you still working on it?
Specifications 97-1 and 98-1 in the matter of objections by Janine Chicorette and Lei Wai Fong to the petition of Joseph Farinello member of the Assembly, 47th Assembly District. Clerk's report, 427 signatures submitted, 40, oh, it's two separate reports? Is the amendment on the second page? Okay. The top page is correct, Commissioners. 47 invalid signatures, 380 valid signatures, 408 are required to appear on the ballot. Appearances, please.
Raymond Riley on behalf of the candidate.
Susan Morrow for the objectors.
Mr. Riley, according to the clerk's report, you're sure?
Yes, by 28, if memory serves me correctly. The issue that I'd like to speak today pertains about 31 signatures. They were all lost to what was marked as an incomplete date. The specific portion of the date that was missing was the year. The month was there.
Do you have
the year.
Do you have the exception report
I
showing
do.
the line, page, number, and volume number that you're
It's a copy, actually, of the worksheet that you guys. Yeah, I also have a copy of the petitions to go with that if you'd like.
This is not saying which one you're challenging.
Every single one listed there is being challenged by me. I have with me, if the commissioners would be willing to consider it, an affidavit.
Excuse me.
Sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. I have with me an affidavit from the subscribing witness who collected all those 31 signatures, stating that she did collect them in the year 2014. I'd also like to point out to the commissioners that the subscribing witness section of the petition did have the year on it.
Can we see the petition, please? The original? No, the original. Danny, we're looking at
786
and 795.
It's pages 7 through 11 and then page 13.
Speak directly into it.
Pages 7 through 11 and then page 13. Commissioners, as I stated, I have an affidavit from the subscribing witness stating that she collected them. Sure. I'd also like to state, as the person who printed the petitions, I can attest that I printed them in May of this year, so it would have been impossible for them to have been collected in any other year other than 2014.
Does you object to have anything to say?
Good afternoon, Commissioner.
Good afternoon. Would you like to add to that argument?
All we would want to see is that in fact was the ruling of the clerks, and if that's the only issue, I suspect we have not much more to say.
Well, I believe the commission has been provided with copies with the original petitions and the affidavit, and it may be the consensus of the commissioners that there is substantial compliance and there's no real attempt to deceive or confuse the voters. So is there a motion to?
I would move that we reinstate those signatures that were objected to, that dealt with the date. with the incomplete date, those 31
Is
signatures.
there a second? All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed or object? The motion carries.
Commissioner, do we just understand the incomplete date that you were referring to would be those cases where a year was missing?
Yes.
Okay.
It's not a blanket waiver of date.
Commissioner, so I take it that based on your motion, the revised amended clerk's report now shows 16 invalid signatures, 411 valid signatures, 408 are required. So, Commissioner, I guess it would be appropriate that we take a motion to adopt the revised amended and direct the clerk to prepare an official copy.
Yeah, I just want to clarify the motion. That what we were talking about was the date on the witness, on the signer's signature date, not anything having to do with the witness date. Sorry.
The body, in the area on the report under the signature area.
That's right.
Make a motion to amend the clerk's report.
Second.
To adopt the revised amendment.
All in favor? Anybody opposed or abstained? Motion carries.
Commissioner, I take it that we have the chief deputy to prepare a corrected.
Yes, please.
Thank you, Commissioner.
The amended, revised amended clerk's report is adopted. The candidate will appear on the ballot. Commissioners, spec numbers 101 and 103, they were dismissed prima facie.
Move to dismiss as moved.
Dismiss this vote, yeah?
Yes.
There's more to come. Let's see each other tomorrow.
Yes. Can I have a motion was made to dismiss this clerk's report as moved? Is there a second? All in favor? Anybody opposed or abstained? Motion carries. Just for the record, I believe the rule is J5. Two of our commissioners have to leave. So pursuant to J5, we're designating a subcommittee of the commissioners present, which will consist of Commissioner Michelle, Commissioner Romaine, Commissioner Shimon, Commissioner myself, Commissioner Roger, and Commissioner Jen. Who else is going to be? Okay, so
I'll hang out.
okay. On the Republican side, will be Commissioner Romaine and Commissioner Shimon. On the Democratic side will be myself, Commissioner Roger, and Commissioner Dent. Can I get a motion for that?
Commissioner, you and the secretary have the power to make such a designation.
And the designation is being joined in by the secretary. Can we have a brief second call? Recess.
Yeah, okay. Resuming the Brooklyn hearings, the next clerk's report is spec number 113 in, let's see, was this dismissed? Sharon Jones is the law, right? Nothing? 113. Okay. Sorry, Commissioner. Specs number 104, 105, 108, 109, 110, and 112, all on a single clerk's report in the matter of the objections of...
This was not dismissed. No, the other one.
In the matter of the objections of Rona Taylor, Pierre Gideon, Gladys Jerry Joseph, and Lisa L. Derrick, the petition of Mark Lieberman, a member of the Assembly, 42nd Assembly District Democratic Party. Clerk's report, 2,062 signatures submitted, 2,041 invalid, 21 valid. 500 required. Appearances, please.
For the objectors, Aaron Maslin, could I ask for a copy that you have there, the clerk's report? You have an extra copy?
For the candidate, Arthur Grant, 401 Broadway, New York.
Thank you.
Well, just one jurisdictional issue. Candidate was never properly served with any specs from Rona Taylor, Pierre Gideon, Gladys Judy, Joseph, Lisa Derrick, Blondell Whitey, or Jock Rodriguez.
Can we get a service?
We're gonna get that. 104, 05, 8, 9, 10, and 12.
One, I don't know, is my mic on? I don't know.
Start with 104.
6 objectives, 1 spec.
So there's one mailing done, Mr. Maslow?
Yep.
It's not 6, there's only going to be 1 proof of service, not 6.
BOP has a few more things in it.
To appear to be correct, Mr.
Commissioners, attached to a copy of the first page of the specs, as well as having inscribed on the certified mailing receipt the objection numbers 104, 105, 108, 9, 10, and 12, and it is addressed to Mark E. Lieberman, who as the candidate for public office in Norwood should be served.
So it's time to file?
Greg, Pat?
Yeah, can I take a look at that?
Yeah, try. Mr. Gregg, we're not going to be receptive to an argument that he did both, and that it didn't comply with the rules, but it was
No.
one or the other. If you did both, that's okay.
No.
Do you have a list of exceptions?
Not this time.
Okay, move the clerk's report.
Second.
Anybody against? All in favor? Against or opposed? Motion carries.
Clerk's report is adopted. Candidate will not appear on the ballot. Clerk's report inspect number 113, Democratic Party, objections of
I move that it's dismissed
Candidate
as moved.
Joseph has been dismissed Prima Facie because he did not properly state the office.
Second, all in favor? Anybody opposed or object? Motion carries.
Clerk's report dismissed this week. Spec 115, Clerk's report, Democratic Party, objections of Syed Kathru to the petition of Halal A. Sheikh, male member of the State Committee, 54th Assembly District. Clerk shows 1,349 signatures submitted, 784 invalid, leaving 565 valid, 500 required to qualify.
For the candidate?
Yes.
What's your name?
Halal check.
Anyone here for the objective?
Do you have anything to add?
No.
Move the clerk's report.
Second.
All in favor? Anybody opposed or abstaining? Motion carries.
Clerk's report is adopted. Candidate will appear on the ballot. Clerk's report specification number 117, Working Families Party.
No, this is not. This is working families.
Working Families. Sorry, objection by Daniel Slavin to the petition of Alec Brooke Crafty, member of the Assembly, 46th Assembly District. Clerk's report shows 12 candidates submitted for the candidate, 12 signatures valid, 11 required.
Any appearances? There being none, move the clerk's report. All for? Anybody against? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
Clerk candidate will appear on the ballot. Amended the clerk's report for spec 119, Democratic Party, Objections by Barrington Barrett and Grace McPherson to the petition of Pamela Garcia for female member of the Democratic State Committee, 58th Assembly District. Clerk's report, 1,018 signatures submitted, 732 invalid, 286 valid, 500 required to qualify for the ballot. Appearances, please.
Susan Morrow for the objectors?
You have a notice of appearance?
Yes.
Great. So you want to add anything? You want to add anything? Move the clerk's report.
Second.
No.
All in favor? Anybody opposed or abstained? Motion carries.
Clerk's report is adopted. Candidate will not appear on the ballot. Clerk's report for specifications number 121 and 122. Objection to Peggy Cornegie to the petition
I
of
think
Leah.
this is moot because,
Miles off?
no, Miles is on, the objection is off.
Spec
No.
121 and 122.
For the objector.
Remember Mr. Miles was jumping up. Is it the same office?
This is the state senate. That was spec 17 was dismissed. Spec 17 against him was a different spec we dismissed, Commissioners. This spec has not been dismissed. Spec number, clerk's report, specs 121 and 122, objections of Cornegie to the petition of Miles for State Senator 19th District. Clerk's report, 1285 signatures submitted, 533 invalid, 752 valid, 1,000 required. Appearances, please.
There being no appearances, move the clerk's report. All in favor? Any
Clerk's report.
abstentions? Motion carries.
Clerk's report is adopted, candidate will not appear on the ballot. What's this, dismissed? Matt, will these dismissed? 131?
Yes.
Specs 131 and 132 were dismissed.
All right, move to dismiss as moved. Second. All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Are we ready for any of the second calls?
I believe some may have been ready. Mr. Rabb, Mr. Feldman, are you ready on 81?
87, yes, whatever.
And do we have the clerk's report? Recalling, second call, clerk's report for spec number 87, Working Families Party. Objections of Santiago and Vargas to the petition of Medina, State Senate 18th District. Do we have a report from the clerks on what they found?
We didn't send them out.
Is there a stipulation to be offered?
Mr. Richmond, Commissioners, on review of the symbol sheet attached to the objections, we concede that a SAP is not a dupe. And consequently, we concede that the candidate's on the ballot.
So then the 10 SAPs listed on the clerk's report should be stricken, Commissioners, and we would change the numbers then to 3 invalid and 46 valid, 44 required.
Move to adopt the amended clerk report. All in favor? Anybody opposed or abstained? Motion carries.
Amended clerk's report is adopted. Candidate will appear on the ballot, and the chief and deputy will prepare an amended clerk's report to reflect the same.
If we could just mention on...
we have one more item, which is the legal Prima Facie Commission.
Yeah, well, also, the matter of Baronello that was corrected as to the year on the incomplete date, the clerks immediately notified us that there were numerous other objections against each of those lines, which because they found on a matter of date that they didn't rule on. So the clerks are reworking their figures. Mr. Baronello would only have been on at maximum by 3 if that were the only objection present in our specs. So the clerks are in the process of reviewing to make sure that Mr. Baronello is not penalized as a result of the missing year, but that the specifications regarding other issues be well recorded. We're awaiting Mr. Ortiz's revised report.
Thank you. What was the other one you just called?
Oh, Commissioners, we have a council's report on one additional spec. It is the council's report that should have been in the legal folder. The objections filed by Leonard Daniels Jr., Keith Bogan, and Juliette Bichette to the designated petition for Jesse Hamilton for Democratic candidate for State Senate, 20th Senate District, as well as male member of the State Committee, 43rd AD, and Shirley Patterson to be the candidate for the female member. Commissioners, the specification of objection claims that the petitions filed for Mr. Hamilton for the State Senate specifying the unexpired term ending December 31st, 2014 constituted fraud and was a sham, as no election contest will be held for the described office. By way of background, as we outlined in the memo, on January 13th, the State Board issued a certificate of vacancy for the member of the State Senate in the 20th District. And then on March 4th, the State Board, pursuant to the election law, section 4106-subdivision 4, issued a certification of offices to be filled at the general election. It specified that for the New York State Senate, all districts, including the 20th Senate District, will vote for a New York State Senator for a 2-year term. It also specified that in the 20th Senate District, the unexpired term for the State Senate may lawfully be voted for. On May 9th, the laws of Chapter 20 of the laws of 2014 set May 29th as the first date to circulate petitions for this primary. Then subsequently on June 19th, the State Board issued a directive relating to the general election ballot and vacancies in the legislature, which was consistent with the holding of the Court of Appeals in Barron versus the Board of Elections. Thereafter, 2 sets of designated petitions were filed with this board on July 7th on behalf of Mr. Hamilton to be a candidate for the State Senate. 1 set of the petitions, and the volume numbers are set forth in the report, reflected both for the State Senate in that district for the term expiring on December 31st and commencing for the 2-year term on December 1st, 2015. It also filed another set of petitions which set forth Mr. Hamilton as the candidate for the State Senate with no term specified. Copies are attached as exhibits to the report. Some of those designated petitions containing both types of Senate candidacies also designated Shirley Patterson to be a candidate in the primary for female leader and Mr. Hamilton for male leader. On July 15th, the instant specifications were filed, and they also then seek to say that since the candidates were aware, Patterson and Hamilton, that no election would be held, that constituted a fraud, or fraudulent, and that they also claim that it's all of the petitions filed, even those without the term of fraud, should be void under the decision in Villafame v. Cabot. But they specifically note that these specifications relate to fraud, which is not within the jurisdiction of the board, and are being set forth to enable the objectors to pursue these before the Supreme Court. Our findings is that there is a court proceeding pending, and that under Rule H of the board rules, the appropriate venue for determining fraud or forgery should be the Supreme Court. It's our recommendation that that the board decline to rule on these specifications and allow the matter to be determined in the appropriate forum of the Supreme Court. Appearances?
I'll wait, go ahead, Mr. Maslin.
Mayor Maslin for the objective.
Bernard Walter for the candidate.
Does anyone add anything?
I guess this is in lieu of a clerk's report. In lieu of a traditional clerk's report, right?
Well, the spec that was filed only raised legal issues.
Yeah. Okay. I just wanted to make paperwork wise, that's all.
Yeah, my only comment is that we'd like to make sure, because you've done some very thorough research on this, Mr. Richmond, that clerk's report, that thorough research by you, gets to the judge, so he knows exactly how this all took place.
The board's not taking a position in the case, but this is a public document, you're free to share it with them.
All right, good. That's what I'm, well, yeah, but it is your decision that the court's gonna be reviewing, so it should.
The commissioners will make a decision.
We haven't ruled.
Oh,
yet.
okay, but I do want to point out.
Mr. Richmond was called the great yesterday and certain other things.
Yeah,
We still get the final say.
Right, I understand that. I just want to make sure that whatever you all do here with that thorough research, as well as if it's adopted or not adopted by the board, reaches the hands of the judge.
Do you wish to add anything?
If Mr. Walter requests that it be mailed to the judge, I have no objection.
I move that we adopt the recommendation of counsel's report. All in favor? Anybody opposed or abstain? Motion carried.
In other words, we should make it available to you. If you want to submit it to whoever you want to submit it to, it's up to...
Yeah, fine, just want to make sure that that report is available. Am I correct in saying that will be?
Hand them a copy of it.
We'll give you a copy now.
You have another copy?
Yes.
Okay. Couple of copies, one for Mr. Walter, one for me.
Yeah.
Let the record reflect both counsels are getting an additional copy, which are mailed to the objectors and the candidates.
Thank you very much, Mr. Richmond. Your cooperation is appreciated.
I would shepherdize it.
Anything else, Ricky?
I don't know.
Don't we still have?
Yes, there's some second calls.
Recalls on, they're recounting the numbers on the, wait, Mr. Walter, they're recounting the numbers on the Sharon Clark petition.
Okay, have they done?
I don't know. And you also have that Republican 46 petition.
You got the one, you got spec 95 also hasn't been completed.
Well, let's go over, we'll tell you what we were waiting for second call. Spec number 95 is on the second call. Spec number 87 was second call to adoption, so that's done. 71 and 72 is second call, and 88-1. Yeah, 95 was the first one, so we'll just put second number order.
You have the one with Clark here, the report back?
71 and 72 is Clark.
Is that done? It's supposed to be.
You're looking for Sharon Clark,
It's supposed to be recalculated.
71 and 72 are waiting to be recalculated. 88 and 95.
Have they been recalculated?
As of now, no, Mr. Walter. We'll call them when the clerks report that they're ready.
I sent Danny in to go check.
Yes, anyway, right now.
Sorry.
What?
Specs 131.
I think so, they were dismissed because I think
They were dismissed as one person.
131 was dismissed as moot. It's dismissed as moot. We're done with that. We're done.
I just want to make sure that I didn't miss it.
This is a meeting of the Commissioners' Cover Sheet Review Committee to review 4 amended cover sheets that have been filed with the board. For Brooklyn Democratic County Committee, these notices went out last Friday. The 3-day cure period expires today, so they have time to suggest.
The first one is for Democratic Party County Committee for 51st Assembly District. The original defect was that the county committee schedules were missing 0 votes, so the amended covered by
Yeah.
We're both left-handed, so we have to move. That's 2 intelligence.
This is for Democratic Party County Committee schedule for 41st AD. Same issue, the original defect was that the board was omitted from the county committee schedule.
For Steve to get them to speak.
Did you wait?
Coming up, yeah.
Here's the amended to the 41st. I handed up. Yes.
If he's satisfied with it.
This is for the 51st ED, Democratic Party, primary schedule, same issue. This is made on the original one, or Albert on the second one.
No, that's the only that came in. That was the only, that was the candidate. Correct.
Right, on the original one, it's on the second page.
And these are, okay, that's your package. Ken has the third one. Giacomo, let's do this one. Where's the chairman? What? This is the second one.
Yeah. Okay, gotcha.
Gotcha.
What'd you do? There's one missing.
Ken has one. What did you handed it? Who you handed it by? Just this one.
Yeah, it just has to be mixed up somewhere.
This was yesterday, 3 count days.
Stay allowed? No, there it is. That's the third one.
This is our
That's not mine.
The last one is similar to the issue we considered on Friday, but we didn't have to rule on it. Here, the amended cover sheet again was filed prior to the committee meeting, but after the deadline, it was July 14th. The committee met and found it to be defective, that they didn't have the ID number, and on the 14th, and the committee didn't meet until 3 p.m. And they found that before, so it was invalid or not.
This was the one that was filed before.
Well, we had the other one, when we did the other one, yeah, this is before the paperwork, but this is the other one, see, when you do the cleanup, finally, they haven't made a determination.
But their amended cover sheet is not, it was filed late, it doesn't not.
Well, it was filed late as of right, and it was filed prior to a determination by the Commissioners Committee that the original cover sheet was defective.
But does this cure?
If, well, it cures the defect that we noted on the original cover sheet, except they cured it before we gave them notice. That's the whole question.
But I thought you could do that with amended cover sheets.
You could do that as of right up until the last day of the file, which is Thursday, July 10th. After the 10th, it's only from amended cover sheet responsible and stamping.
That report is
Yes. So I don't think it's a valid cure. My understanding.
That?
What? Yes, they will respect that was in the, after respecting the valve. Well, actually, the question, that's about the cover sheet. The question is we give a notice every day, down, or do you give it?
The whole issue is that she before we give it a price.
Yes, that was the only point.
So that's like, that's like the article that came in just before they took notice that before we even found it.
Right. This is over here.
Almost the same. Yes. It's good.
It's good, and it's done.
And there's nothing going on. Yes, she stays on the ballot. I think the photos of days and everything. That means you're with me.
That's it?
So now the question is. For what? Which number?
On the cover sheet.
No, we told you cover sheets are not being discussed today.
When is it going to be discussed?
It's not. You had to notice, as we said before.
No, I never got the notice.
Whether you got, the amended cover sheet was not effective.
What's wrong with the?
In the 411 signatures.
Steve.
We added the 16. Right. So what happened?
I don't believe that is correct. I think that initially they said that, and then an objection was raised by the objector that those 31 signatures had line-by-line objections that had to be worked.
But we didn't give notice to the other side. So we'll have to schedule this for Tuesday.
What happened?
Commissioners, this was the report about the 31 with the date incomplete. Spec numbers 97 and 98. Republican Party petition of Joseph Barinello for member of the Assembly, 47. The commissioners, you voted, the motion was to add back the 31 signatures in from the signature area that was removed to date incomplete. And then, for some reason, I'm trying to figure out why, the Brooklyn then said that there was concern that the clerk's report was not correct. The 31 signatures that were removed from date incomplete supposedly had other objections against them.
Were there valid objections? None. They found none that not invalid.
But again, this was done, was the other side present?
No.
So then I don't understand how this was done.
There was nobody present. They were just working
All
on
they were supposed to do was re-add 31.
Yeah, but they weren't.
But there was no-
But you had to look at those other objections because you ruled because it was an incomplete date. So you didn't involve looking at the other ones. So that's why when they went back.
They didn't.
No other parties.
So then, what you're gonna have to do then, Commissioners, if you wanted to have them prepare a revised amended clerk's report, send it out to both sides with notice that it'll be heard on 1:30 on Tuesday. So both of them have a chance to, if they wanna come back and argue that you made a mistake on those lines.
Is the difference between
Take them off the ballot.
24, does that put them on or off?
Take them off the ballot. Take them off the ballot. He was up by 3, 411, and with 408 needed, you take away 9, you're now 7.
Yeah, but they should do that stuff, they should listen to it.
Yeah, but you need the commissioners to tell you to do that.
Commissioners,
I thought that happened.
in the interest of justice, can we schedule this for Tuesday? No, I believe in justice.
We have to make it.
I think it'll be fair.
Send it to them.
Send it to them with notice saying that the revised clerk's report will be considered by the commissioners at Tuesday at 1:30.
I'm just
You put, and when we, by your vote, you put them on by 3 signatures and you left half.
Now we're reworking it off by
What else do we have ready?
What else do you have to say? What the clerk's gonna, the other, the one that we're waiting for? We're still looking for 71, 72. 71 and 72? So, are you ready to report back on 71 and 72? Recalling clerk's reports, amended clerk's report, spec 71 and 72. The objections by Rona Taylor and Pierre Gideon to the petition of Sharon Clark, judge in the civil court, 6th Municipal Court District. Would the chief clerk and deputy please report what the new
Mr. Alt is in the other room, he's my adversary, he's in the other room.
It's coming, it's coming.
Wait for Mr. Alt to come to give him the new findings.
Yes,
sir.
Mr. Alton, will recall spec 71 and 72.
The objections to the petitions.
Of Sharon Clark.
Yes, sir.
Chief Clerk's going to report the new findings.
The new findings are a total of signatures 8,162, total of invalid signatures 2,489, total of valid signatures 5,673, total needed 1,500.
Was it 5673, you said, Mr. Riano?
5673, yes. And that applies to both 71 and 72, correct?
Yes.
Are you issuing a new clerk's report now? How does it work?
Well, the commission will vote on the amended clerk's report, and then Brooklyn will prepare an amended clerk's report.
That we can pick up like tomorrow?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right, move to adopt the amended clerk's report. Is there a second? All in favor? Anybody opposed or abstained? Motion carries.
5673, was it number?
5673.
5673, okay.
Amended clerk's reports, spec 71 and 72 are adopted. The candidate will appear on the ballot. So that leaves two outstanding.
95, I think is outstanding, isn't it, Steve?
We have spec numbers 88 and 95.
95 is almost done.
88, by the way, if you don't mind asking.
Stamatis lilicatus.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yes.
I don't think it's being heard yet, I'm sorry. I just said the name. Yeah, so the other one, the other one, that's not ready to be heard yet. I don't
Oh,
think.
so we should, so we'll sit back down?
72, right?
88's not ready to be heard yet, right?
We just did
I'm waiting
72.
for it back.
Okay.
88 and 88 and 95 are what we're waiting for them to finish up.
Steve, there's no 87, right? There's no supposed to be
88.
No,
88,
87.
87 change.
Steve, we have public days in court. Because what we can do is just not agree on the clerk's report.
I don't know. On 88-1, is there anybody here representing either the candidate or the objector?
They're both here, yeah.
Oh, they in court? Do you have a court proceeding or not?
No, there's no court proceedings.
You finished?
We're finished. I was just told that the report wasn't ready yet, so I was told to sit back down. Did I?
Okay. That's a good idea.
Okay, yeah, okay.
That's what we're doing.
No, Kovac was part of 88.
Yeah, that's all right.
They heard the testimony down the Recalling specification, clerk's report specification 88-1, Republican Party, the objections of Minicello to the petition of Lilikakis for member of the Assembly 46th Assembly District. Council, you'll confirm that there is no pending court proceeding in this matter?
Yes.
Okay.
In light of that, in light of the work that the staff is doing in the
That's
background,
the-
we're gonna put this over till Tuesday, allow the staff.
1:30.
Allow the staff to work the objections as raised and the exceptions as raised, in this proceeding this afternoon. Is there a second on that? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstained? Motion carries. So the case will be heard on Tuesday at 1:30. The clerks are working, what hours are they working now?
They're working now by court order tomorrow, they'll be open till 9:30 tomorrow and on Friday if necessary.
All right, I assume as soon as it's ready, then both sides
You'll
can get a
fax the
copy
amendment.
and
Well, we encourage you to be
take
there.
it from there.
Tuesday at 1:30.
No, the staff is working
Yeah.
these specs.
Right.
And they're gonna be working at the borough office.
Well,
They're free to go. And
Let's find, did the staff, did both of you work with the clerks and resolve the issues that were presented?
Apparently
Yeah.
not, right? Did you have a dispute?
There were no rulings.
Ms. Potter says that, like, there's still math issues in the recapitulations.
Well, if it's math issues, the staff can do it without the candidates, because I'm trying to say is, have both of you had a chance to review the list of exceptions and see what the staff has ruled on in terms of that.
Oh, yes.
So they did it, so the only thing left is the arithmetic, correct? What's,
Our staff informed us that some of the matters that were on the list were not on the original list, and we had not made findings on them.
they can't be, if they're not on the original,
So
Obviously, if they're not on the
we need
original,
to
they can't be,
review it
but
and
Ms.
hear them.
Potter says that's not the case.
Okay, so we need time to review this. If we can be given the time.
Well, you have
we
the
would
time.
like to have a
You have
but
the
discussion.
time.
when would you like, do you want them to come in at a
Tuesday,
specific time?
Wednesday.
No, to review them before Tuesday, so they can review your ruling. You wanna make a time on either Friday or Monday for them to come in?
Certainly.
And get a copy.
Okay.
If they choose.
Friday,
what time they want to do.
Friday, it's not that many signatures, right?
You'll make a time on Friday.
Yes, I think Friday would be
What
fine.
about tell us, I think I both didn't know.
Friday at 1 o'clock?
At the Brooklyn board?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
You'll receive the revised clerk's report, and based on that, you can determine whether or
Okay.
not.
And there are some issues that are still outstanding before the commissioners, am I correct?
Well, there's the testimony that was received, which I guess will be rolled over to be considered on Tuesday. Correct.
I just want to say, he was never sworn in, Mr. Kovac. The record, he was never sworn in.
He had a notice of appearance.
He wasn't administered an oath.
He had a notice of appearance.
We'll take into consideration that factor, okay? All the factors. All right, we'll deal with that on Tuesday. All right, do we have?
Should Mr. Kovac be here as well then?
That's your
That's your
choice.
decision, that's your choice.
Okay.
What's the status of Spectrum 195?
No, it's done. Excuse me? About 2 minutes, it'll be finished.
Let's recess until,
I believe all that is left, Commissioner.
It'll take about 30 seconds.
all right, let's recess.
Okay.
Call the meeting back to order.
Recalling clerk's report, spec number 95-1, Democratic Party, objections of Clark to the petition of Smitherman, State Senate, 19th Senate District. Chief Clerk Rudiano has a revised clerk's report to present.
Total number of signatures submitted for the candidate, 2,983. Total number of invalid signatures, 1,343. Total number of valid signatures, 1,640. Total needed for the office, 1,000.
For the objection, Bernard Alter, 26 Fourth Street, Brooklyn, New York. I have nothing further to add. Moving court.
Kennedy?
Candidate, nothing to add, same
Clerk's
appearance.
report, the amended clerk's report.
The amended.
All in favor? Any opposed, abstaining, motion carries.
Thank you, commissioners, for your patience. I appreciate it.
Done?
I believe this concludes,
Yeah, the candidate, based on the amended clerk's report, the candidate is on the ballot.
the hearings for today?
Am I done?
Yes.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.